Chris Rock, who is always interesting to talk to, was processing his thoughts about Chris as we interviewed him, and it's really, really compelling.
Tell Rock. That's too funny.
Rock, what's the longest set a middle act has done in your days in the clubs? You're the headliner, and the middle is leaning into it. What's the longest set?
Okay.
Supposed to do 20. Yeah.
I once did. I was the middle for Larry Miller.
Oh.
Larry Miller.
And
hilarious.
I was cocky, and I did probably about 35, 40.
Ooh, enough to take the room.
And I'm good. I mean, it didn't affect him, honestly, but he definitely pulled me to the side and let me know that was not to be hey, this is not how we do it in the majors.
Yeah.
And
you do it.
But it was great. It was like a great week because he actually listened to my act, and instead of like just being like "fuck this guy," right, and basically had me help him write jokes for the like literally. It was a week with Larry Miller, and I don't know, like at 9 o'clock, we wrote jokes from 9 in the morning to about 2 in the afternoon. We went over his act, and like he made me. He's like, okay, kid, let me put you to use.
Did he have a cigar when he said that?
He might as well have, honestly.
Yeah. Well, you got a good guy right in front of you. You're on the road. It's boring. And 99% of comedians don't do that.
Yeah.
And they should.
And they should. Like, he totally put me under his wing for a week. And this is a joke. This is a premise. This is, and he would help me with my act. Okay, this is a tag. Hey, you're leaning too hard on this tag. Hey, you got to think for this tag.
Yeah, but he is good. He's worth listening to.
One of the best comics I ever seen. That guy, Larry Miller.
Yeah, he's tight. Yeah, I had a guy do 70 as a middle in the Cobb's Cobb's Pub in SF back in the day. I'm the headliner.
70
late show. He wouldn't stop. They did the light, this and that, and it was 70-minute middle. And he did say, was that 70? He played innocent, but then he parlayed the whole act in defending the caveman, which he hired.
That. Yeah.
And so he hires other guys to do his act, and he retired in the Tony suburbs of Marin County.
Wow, that guy.
And that was the first one-man show guy. Like he did it, then he hired someone else to do his exact act. That's so interesting.
Well, he franchised a Togo sandwich. He's the only comedian I ever knew that had a franchise of a Togo sandwich shop. So then he franchised his act.
Yeah.
Anyway, enough about that. So
all right,
Chris,
let's get back to, yeah.
Chris, how are you, first of all?
Yeah, first
I'm okay. How are you guys?
Are you kind of tired? Are you overworked? Or are you on a day off?
I've been on the road since March. And I'm not done till March. I've probably done about 90 shows now, something like that.
Where are you in your own head? Because I know you're going to do a live special in your own head. Are you at 8? Are you at a 9? Or you think you're about at 10 at times? How are you feeling about your set?
I think, this way, the set, how do I explain it? The live experience is good. So I'm having really good shows.
Mm-hmm.
But in my show's probably about an hour and a half, hour 40, right? I got to get it down to an hour. So I don't, in some ways, I don't really know the special yet.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Pacing wise, what do you cut? It'll feel different.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, what's the narrative of it? I mean, I could string together, 50 an hour worth of good jokes. But I'm like, okay, what's the narrative?
The theme?
thread?
Like Tambourine was your last one.
Yeah,
right?
like what's the kind of theme of this one?
Like Beyonce.
Like who am I?
She has a theme.
It's not even like a theme. It's like, who the fuck am I
now
this year?
Yeah, I got you.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's like, who am I?
Yeah.
Anyway, let's talk about our buddy Chris Farley, and we're here to celebrate one of the all-time greats, And
is it like a date? Is this the day he
It's
died?
25 years ago. This is the year he passed away.
Okay.
25. I would have guessed 18.
25.
I'll get you started. The only two cast members, only two people on Earth that only called me lady were you and the other Chris.
Yeah.
Chris Farley and Chris Rock, which I thought was so funny. Never said my name ever, even Carvey or whatever. Both consistently, lady, lady, lady. So I don't know why you and Chris had that connection, but it was so funny. You still call me lady.
Yeah, I mean, you were the lady. And it was a term of endearment. It was because you were, how much older are you? I mean, I was like, I don't know this guy well enough to call him Dana. It's like,
no.
He's like a grown man.
I'm a half.
He's a grown man. We're children.
I'm a half generation up, but I think what happened, I went on Letterman and I was riding high and he goes, there's a lot of new cast members coming in. And I said, you know what I say to him? I say, you know who my name is? I'm the fucking church lady. Now give me a cup of coffee with a fake cigarette. And I think you and Chris saw that and took, just said lady the whole time.
Yeah.
We might have. I mean, wow. I remember I used to, but sometimes with Spade, I used to watch Letterman. I used to go down there and sneak and just watch him work on his monologue and just like, because he was downstairs.
6A, I believe.
Yeah. I like fucking idolized that guy.
Yeah.
But
wasn't that a great building to be in, Rockefeller Center?
It was an amazing building to be in.
Yeah.
Wow.
You and Farley got hired. You started after Schneider and I. Then there was a summer, and then you guys came on first.
Me and
show.
Farley got hired the same day. We started the same day. I guess we got hired the same night. I don't. That they were doing auditions in Chicago.
Okay.
Did I meet Farley that night? I don't know if I met him that night. I don't think I met him till I got to 8H.
Mm-hmm.
And Chris and Chris, and
you had that going on.
We kind of had the Chris and Chris thing going on.
That lasted a little bit. Good jumping off point.
I was living in Brooklyn. Life. So I'm the black guy who lives in Brooklyn, and it's like, hey, is he safe living in Brooklyn? Whatever.
Yeah.
I'm the one they worried about. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Really?
I was the one that was like, what's going on here? Let's,
Make
and
sure he's safe.
Yeah, and Chris was obviously a danger to himself.
He was very, very spontaneous.
He was in the most danger.
He was Wisconsin Dundee because he would just go, David, there's a McDonald's here, and there's one in Wisconsin. I'm like, yeah, is it on wheels? No, Chris. And when he'd go to the ATM, he'd keep pulling $20 out, and then we go and he goes, I have to go to the ATM again. I go, Chris, take out $200. Like, what are we doing at 20? What's 20 getting anyone?
He gets to hit the button
because he was like just a Midwest. So I mean, I'm Arizona. Right. I'm not big time, but I knew to take 40 out.
You knew that.
I knew that much.
You're big time, baby. You're big time.
Yeah, we were rolling around, but I was floored by Farley. Probably the first read through.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Farley was he was. I mean, I never felt that competition thing everybody talks about, but I guess, whatever. It was a very competitive environment, but no one was competing with Farley.
Yeah, true.
No one.
He was ahead.
Even thought, you know what I mean? It was just like, he's Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
And get him the ball. Like,
definitely give him the ball.
If he wanted to take the scene, he could take it if he felt like it. And he was a nice guy, so he'd lay back sometimes. But if he wanted to go to a move that no one else has, that energy that he could explode with.
Literally never had one bit of like, hey, this guy doesn't write sketches. Why is he in everything? Hey, none of that. None of, why is he in 9 things and I'm in 1? Because he's better than you.
Because he should be in 10.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Remember the first show back might have been Kyle McLaughlin? Because there's a
My
Twin
first show
Peaks
was
thing.
Kyle MacLachlan
Yeah.
and Sinead O'Connor.
Okay, so
Wow.
Chris,
Sinead O'Connor, not the night she ripped up the Pope thing, but
Was it before
the
or
unmemorable
after?
night.
Yeah.
the unmemorable night. The night she just
She sang
Didn't
her
rip
shit.
anything up except Spade's heart.
Yeah,
Good night.
she was cute. After she ripped up the Pope, everyone stopped flirting with her. So she had Farley, and they wrote a Twin Peaks sketch because obviously all summer it was a huge show. What's the angle with Kyle MacLachlan from Twin Peaks? And I think Schneider might have cracked that code of like they solved the case, but they still think he keeps it going or something. But Farley was in one scene in handcuffs and he was getting laughs and he had really nothing to do. And that was the first time I was like, there was nothing in read through. And then he's out there and everyone's staring at him. And he's just flipping his head back and forth and you're like, oh shit, I get it. Something's going on here.
No one did distress better than Chris. Like the way it was like Kennison had his rhythm, Chris had his explosive rhythm. There was all method to his madness. It was extremely irresistible.
He had a way of stepping into funny, like it was just on his shoe. He didn't know how he got there. It's just like, fucking guy's gone.
And the funny part was, Chris, he was always sort of in awe of literally every other cast member, like just going, so funny, Phil's so great, oh my God. And then everyone's like, wait, you're the great one, dude. Or even Belushi. And you go, there was a point when I said, actually, I think you're better than Belushi. He's like, shut the fuck up. I'm like, I'm telling you, it's been long enough where I'm starting to flip going, we grew up loving Belushi, of course. And I'm like, it's getting close, dude.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take my guy in that fight, but you know, I mean, Belushi's great, obviously. Farley had a warmth to him. Yeah, Farley's,
unhateable.
He's unhateable, and he's this guy that, he's just always himself. You know what I mean? In a good way.
Very unique.
He didn't have to really, get into character or anything. He was just fucking funny. And you just bought that he was whoever he was playing.
Yeah, anybody. Yeah, just play any character, one line, he's getting a laugh. So solid.
Yeah, he's a very sad our friend's not here, but it is curious to it's like, wow, what would that guy have done? When I see like Sandler and something like Uncut Gems, it's like, yeah, Farley could have done that. Farley could have been in, he's literally that level of actor and that level of like, you just felt for that guy. You just, okay, whatever ride Chris Farley was going to take me on, I was definitely ready to go on it.
Yeah, if he ever played sad in something, he would just own the audience, if he went that. But the great thing is we have data now, and when you look at his best of, just Farley's best of, it's the best of the best of, It's like we can look at it and go, okay, those 10 sketches, nobody has another 10 like that, So it's great that we got to see his greatness. And Tommy Boy, I think, really captured a lot of Chris. It's great that we have some data on how brilliant and lovable he was. Yeah.
Do you remember, Rock, were you there for a Japanese game show?
Japanese game show? I don't know if I was there for that.
I think Mike Myers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He just played a tourist on the Japanese game show, the only one that couldn't speak Japanese. And he just kept going, they told me this was a different thing. I don't know I'm on a game. I shouldn't be here. My wife, and they're like, everyone's talking Japanese. And then they cut off someone's finger when they get the wrong answer. And he goes, oh. He's scared.
Screaming.
You remember that one, Dana, right?
Oh, yeah. In Massive Head Wound Harry, where everyone had to do a spit take basically at my head. Chris, again, just the way he turned, the way he held his body, and the way he just went, whoa! It was just like, boom.
Right.
A
unique version of a spit
take.
Yeah.
It was a perfect hit it every time.
You guys used to have like take contests.
Yeah. Well, we just keep outdo the other one. Or you,
I remember like, okay, triple take. Just, what the fuck is going on here? What kind of weird improv games are happening?
Yeah. Funny surprise. Yeah. Angry surprise. Yeah.
Yes.
He had them all.
He would occasionally, like go through the moves.
Mm-hmm.
Play the scales.
We did a weird acting thing. That's not even acting for real, but there's that song by Smashing Pumpkins. It Disarm. It goes, "The killer in me is the killer in you." You know it. And they say that line 4 times, and every time when it came on, you go, "Okay, you're sad." Right before the line, then he goes, "The killer in me is," but he mouths it, but he acts sad. Then you go, "Now you're scared." The killer in me, and then, so you have every line. Then you do it to the other guy, and you yell what the next one is, and they have to do it. And it sounds so stupid because it was, and but it would kill some time at 4 a.m. when you didn't want to write.
Yeah, I remember those games.
Anything not to write.
Anything not to write, my friend.
Yeah.
Still.
Procrastinate for as long as you can possibly procrastinate. Because that's
sickening.
the worst. Circle the wagon for 10 hours. Eat a lot of food. Yeah. And then pray.
I remember him calling his father after every dress rehearsal to not talk about the dress rehearsal, to talk about what we had to eat.
Wow. Wow, that's a funny specific memory.
And then we had peas and they had turkey, like because I shared a dressing room with the guy.
Uh-huh.
You were up close.
Okay, so I had an office and a dressing room.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, down on the on 9 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had what the fuck? I don't know. I had a dressing room with A. Whitney and Chris Farley.
Wow. That is a sitcom or a movie.
A. Whitney was probably interesting
too. Chris. No. A. Whitney Brown, writer on SNL back in the day.
Back in the day. So,
Rock,
anyway.
we had hard lines for the people listening. And so you have a phone in your dressing room and you can call your friends after the show. Did you see the show or whatever? And one time he was on the phone with his dad. And I think it's common knowledge he was not scared of his dad, but his dad was a very important.
Very respectful. Yeah.
Yeah. And he knew not to act up around him. And he's talking to him. And then Marcy or Aaron walked by and they kicked the cord accidentally. And he goes, "Hello, hello." And he flipped out. He goes, "He's going to think I hung up on him."
Oh, God.
Terrified. Everyone's like, "Sorry, just call him back." "No, you don't get it." We were like, oh my God. So that was a quick window into like, ooh, yeah.
Yeah. Woo! A lot going on there.
John Farley is Chris's youngest brother. And we would all hang out in the old days. And here's John. Hey.
Hello?
Oh, boy.
Chris?
John!
Chris.
Where are you?
Are we contacting Chris?
Chris.
This is a Ouija board.
Hey, John. 10 and are you driving or you're in the back seat or you're in an Uber?
I got in the car. It's way too loud in the house. There's kids running everywhere.
Oh, got you.
Oh, I've seen your kids. They're a nightmare.
Oh, God, the washer and dryer, the children. One's on Zoom. I'm on Zoom, too.
You're on Adderall. Hey, what about? I'll start with a story, Dana, that I forgot about.
Yeah, you guys go.
Black Sheep or Time Boy, but we can cut it if we want. But Johnny, I don't know if you remember this. You probably heard. So,
Jesus.
So there was a guy that was in charge of. God, I forgot his name. That was in charge of Farley, and so for the movie, it was Tommy Boy. The first day, he would give him a thermos full of cappuccino or espresso, whatever is the strong one. And before each take, Dana, he would do a shot. And I go, Chris, you have to pace this out. This is a long scene. And it was the scene where we're eating bread or, like he's ripping the bread up in front of the waitress. And we realize he's a good salesman. But it was the first scene. It took a lot. The first day is hard. We're trying to figure it all out. And he's getting so gacked out on this. And he
Good
gets
word.
so fucking mad. And then
That's
every
good word,
time at lunch, he goes to sleep. And then no one wants to wake him up because he crashes so hard. So a couple weeks into the movie, they go, Sherry Lansing's coming today. They tell me. And I go, oh, she's coming today? She's here? That's the head of Paramount. Sweet lady. She's going to check on her movie. They do this once in a while on the set, like Dana probably in Wayne's World. So everyone's, Sherry Lansing, everyone's like, places everyone, here comes the boss. And he's sleeping. And so
God.
They go, hey, I go to somebody, go wake up Chris. I go, I'm not fucking waking up Chris.
That was the worst.
She comes up and she says a couple of polite things to me. And then, the dailies are fun. Hey, I got to run. Is Chris here? I'll say bye or say hi. I go, oh, that's his trailer. So she walks over to his trailer and everyone's just staring. And she's like, knock, knock, knock.
Oh,
Chris?
no.
Chris?
Oh, no.
And he goes, get the fuck out of here, you dumb cunt. I'm sleeping.
God.
And she goes, Chris, it's Sherry Lansing. And he goes, hey, Sherry. and he cracks the door and he's like, hey, I just took a little snoozer. And then she's like, yeah, just saying how I got to run. And then he stares around at everyone glaring, going, who didn't warn me? It's so awesome.
Oh, my God. That was my job growing up. I had to wake Chris up down in the basement. We all four boys were down in the basement.
Mm-hmm.
And so, our house was on a hill. We weren't
So all four of you in one room.
All four
Bunk
of us.
beds?
No, there was like, it was Kevin and I in the first room.
Mm-hmm.
It was supposed to be Tommy and Chris in the middle room. And Tommy goes, get out. You're a monster. So Chris had to go back. There's 2 rooms behind the furnace room, which was the scariest. That's where the devil was.
Oh.
And so the furnace room, not Chris's room. But you had to get through the furnace room to get to
paranoid Catholic family in America.
Oh, my God. It was terrifying because the thing made no, it was like Home Alone, that furnace. It was terrifying. And so I had to go every time we had to go to mass or go to like dinner. I had to be the one that goes downstairs, creeps into Chris's room and tells him to wake up and then kick over one of his mystery jars of Mountain Dew, I would assume it was, but it didn't. It
smelled
was
like
hot,
pee. Yeah,
really hot.
Okay.
So, yeah, my dad. No. So,
he goes no, like it's not true. He goes no.
No, it's
no one would do that.
As soon as you guys said it was gross, I'm like, was that?
It's
horrible.
indeterminate. We can't know what it is.
It was far away. His room was far from the bathroom.
Right.
Yes, I understand.
Okay.
But anyway,
so was Norm Macdonald's at SNL.
Yeah. Oh no, that wasn't that far. I got a couple things chucked at me. You got to bring a pillow with you for whatever projectile's coming at your head, and then run, and then go upstairs and go.
Try to wake him up so gingerly.
Yeah.
Was it for school or church or what was your
church, school,
all that?
Going to dinner.
Yeah.
We usually, go out to dinner on Wednesdays and Fridays. We go out to dinner, and he'd be in the second car.
The local steakhouse. Yeah. One time, Johnny, he said, Chris goes, we were driving, and he's in the back as kids, and he goes, Mom, pull over. No, Dad, pull over. I'm hungry. I'm starving. And Mom goes, Christopher, you just ate an hour ago. And his dad goes, hey, good boy.
Good boy. I had to, if I ordered something on the menu, you'd always hear a whisper from Christopher or Kevin or somebody. They go, you better eat all of that. Because I was the skinny one. I could eat and just be like, I'd leave things on the plate. But it was called the Clean Plate Club.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He would say,
I'm a member of the Clean Plate Club.
Yeah, I'd say that a million times. I go, enough with that one. But he also, oh, God. Oh, what about the yuck bag when you would eat?
That's a normal thing. Dana, anyone? Dave?
Anyone?
Yuck bag?
Yuck bag.
It's,
after you'd eat, you'd have to upchuck.
All right. Now listen. Now we'd have just your standard everyday grocery bag, the paper one.
Right.
Yeah.
And in the summertime, we'd have ears of corn. Lots of them.
Mm-hmm.
There's 7 people in this family. You're looking at 14, 2 ears each. That's 14 ears.
Tons of
maybe
steaks.
A couple extra down. Yeah. And then there's the bone from the T-bone part. And then
the gristle.
Yeah. So then my mom was like, I don't want all this crap on the table. I'm gonna take this garbage bag and we're gonna call it a yuck bag.
Don't ever tamper down this story. You go, yuck
It is
bag.
a beautiful story.
It's not really.
So it's a modified grocery bag, and now it has a new
Yeah, so we'd all be throwing our ears of corn and T-bones
in the yuck bag,
gristle and fat,
and then my mom would put it down, and then the table would look like we didn't eat.
The yuck.
We were
Don't
like,
you ever
look.
make the yuck bag not sound fucking gross? What about? I'm sorry to interrupt you, John.
No, go ahead.
I like the idea that you lived across the lake from either a prison or an insane asylum or something. And who was there?
Mental Health Institution. The Mendota Mental Health Institution. Beautiful grounds. So we lived on Lake Mendota, which I believe Otis Redding is still down there hanging out.
Toward the bottom,
sitting on the dock by the bay.
He's sitting on the dock, not really on the dock, probably still on the plane in his seat. But it's we were on a bay part of it all, and so we're on one side, and then around the bay is woods, pretty beautiful woods. But if you look a little farther, there's a weird smokestack and big brown buildings, brick, those huge brick, looks terrifying from like the whatever that beer the beer facility from Strange Brew. Remember that movie, Strange Brew?
Yeah,
that was my favorite. Yeah, and it looked terrifying. So that was the mental. And in the when we were little kids, there was a lovely fellow by the name of Ed Gein that lived there, and he liked to make furniture out of people. So later on, a few years down the road, when we were about in college, another fellow took up residency there by the name of Jeffrey Dahmer. So we had like the all-star list, the Harlem Globetrotters of.
And you knew that he was there.
Yeah, we knew he was there.
And were you scared, or you make jokes, or you sneak up to the prison, or what?
It's a lake, so you can hear everything.
Yeah.
You could whisper, and you could hear it echoing across the lake. And we're in all our doors, all of our bedrooms have doors that open up into the backyard, and not very secure doors. These are just flimsy little doors. And you hear all of a sudden, the dead of night, the sirens go off. You lift your head up out of the pillow, look out the wet door, and you'd see the lights going off and the sirens going off. You're like, sweet Jesus. It was before helicopters, but there was lights and dogs.
So there's always someone escaping, and they don't say who.
Yeah. No, they have no clue who it is. There's someone that has escaped. Ed Gein could have been. He was a little older by the time we were around.
Jeff Dahmer, anybody.
Jeffrey Dahmer was the guy that terrified me because he lived there. He lived there for a while.
Lived there.
Yeah, and I don't know why. I mean, what kind of institute is it? What are they doing there? And
what are they learning there?
Yeah, and they didn't look like real competent guards holding them down, and nor did the gate was a chain link fence. That was it.
Flimsy,
yeah, chain link fence.
Wow.
And
whoop,
yeah, you hear that, and the best was though when you hear that, me and Kevin would be like, "Oh my God, here it comes." You'd see the silhouette of Chris in our doorway with a pillow. It's just this big fat silhouette going, "Shut your mouths, sitting down, I'm sleeping here in between your beds." He'd sleep in between our beds. Because
what a puss!
Because of the siren, he was scared. Or?
Sirens, the devil room of the furnace, and
like the combo.
Yeah, it was a combo.
What about when in the movie Shrek? I don't think a lot of people knew that it was Chris as the voice of Shrek for a long time.
Oh my God, we go when we visit him in L.A. He'd be like, "God damn it, I got to do this thing called Shrek." Nobody knew what it was. Because you have to film those things for years.
The voices.
How long does that take?
Well, then they do animatics, then you do more voices.
Yeah.
But if you don't know it's a hit, when I did Emperor's New Groove, it's grinding. Like 3 years in, I'm like, is this still an honor to do this? I don't even know because it could be shitty. You don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God,
I have no
I know.
idea what it is.
It's just work for a while. You're like, okay. I didn't get paid much, and I don't think Chris got much up front for that. But anyway, go ahead.
So yeah, he had like 5 days left, and they were he shot it all, and then I have a bunch of pictures of like he must have taken out the animators of that, the writers and the animators, because they sent him like a book of all the different photos they had chopped up of him. They're pretty funny.
So he almost finished the movie. I didn't know he went that
he
far.
had 5 days.
Wow.
5
Okay.
shoots left. 5
Looping days.
Yeah.
But then,
Looping days.
Johnny, did they ask you to cover it?
Yeah, but it was like right after. It was right at 97. And I was like, no thanks. Now I'm looking at it like, dear God, what have I passed up?
Oh, they said you could finish it. Just mock Chris's voice.
Were you able to do that? You sound like Chris.
I could
but
back in the day. Yeah,
kinda,
I mean, if you
Let's hear a little bit. Can you do Chris?
Fiona, get on over here. I don't know.
Well, it wasn't.
That's good already.
Scottish. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it wasn't Scottish. I'm sure he was like, please, I've got to be an ogre or something like that.
Yeah.
You know what? They tweaking of the levels and things like that.
There's you. There's Donkey. Here's me. Here's Donkey.
Here's Donkey. But I didn't. So I didn't do that, which is a bad idea.
Yeah. Well, who needs $1 billion?
Dave reminds me of that every goddamn time I see him.
No, you remind me every time you go. I would buy lunch if I finish Shrek.
If I finish Shrek.
Like, all right, I'll pay.
We all have something we turn down,
I know. Couldn't they have released it and then to ask me, and then I could have gone, I'll redo it.
I know. Well, you probably did the right thing. I mean, that's too soon to ask you to do something.
Oh my God, yeah, it was way too soon. So I was like, forget it.
I remember hearing about Shrek with Chris, and I was like, Shrek? He's like, it's like a cartoon. Like, we didn't know what.
And it's not real people. It's like drawings that they make move.
Yeah.
It's
Like
called
Tom and Jerry?
motion or something like that.
Should I be Foghorn Leghorn?
Now, see.
Well, I'll
Chris always
say,
said he was, Matt Foley was a combination of Foghorn Leghorn and my dad. I go, what? Really?
I hear your
He goes,
dad.
I don't know.
I hear
just
that a
said
little bit. I like when he gets his voice high. No,
Yeah.
I use that. Bill Shakespeare. I can't see
Well,
too good.
now, I can't see too good. I hate them rabbits. I know that's his damn.
What about, and Matt Foley was a real guy who was a priest or something?
Matt Foley was his buddy at Marquette, and they played rugby together. And he went off to be a priest at Jesuit priest there in Chicago.
So Odenkirk
He's
or one of those
hilarious. Yeah,
They wrote, when you write
Odenkirk wrote it.
sketches, you put in like someone's name, and then that name turns into something that's people know now.
Yeah, Odenkirk was doing Second City with Chris, and he got hired on there because somebody had left, and so they put Odenkirk in there. And I think all the other cast, Chris was the only one who was like, "Don't worry, Bob, I got you." And all the other cast, somebody said, I think Odenkirk goes, "Somebody kicked me when the lights were down in between scenes."
Oh,
And
really?
Chris is like, "What? God dang it!" But he had brought Matt Foley to Second City. He wrote it. I think you guys
talked about it, yeah, and then
talked
he
about
got
it,
to SNL, and he said it didn't get on right away, which is shocking,
No.
Dana. Can you believe it didn't get on right away?
I know.
Was he full commitment? Because the Air show, the one that's famous, the commitment was, it felt like I've never seen anyone commit harder to anything.
Oh, it's spot on to Second City. Same thing.
Same thing.
Spot
same
on.
energy. Yeah.
Yeah, same energy, same. And Odenkirk had wrote it for himself, and he looked at Chris. He was like, "Fuck, this is yours."
Oh yeah, that was
100
very generous.
Oh,
It's hard to give up a
man.
good
Oh my
one.
God, yeah.
Oh,
This
David,
is
it's
yours.
so funny.
It's so funny. Oh,
I know.
Chris, it's so
Oh, guys.
funny. We're doing Bob Odenkirk,
Yeah.
I
our
heard
buddy.
You know what? They always had to think of a new hook for Chris, like when we're the I was the elf. Like they'd always cram me into something like he's Santa and I'm the elf or whatever. Motivational Santa, motivational whatever.
Oh yeah,
But they go.
did a motivational prison, motivational.
I like
stuff.
when Phil goes. They have to have a new beginning. We got a motivational Santa here. He's been down in the basement eating coffee beans for the last 3 hours. Made no sense.
Yeah.
Just to make any excuse of why is he so
Why is he
gagged
so
out?
freaking amped up?
David, I got one question. Did you ever notice that? What was the basis behind? Did you remember the sketch? What do you bench?
Oh, how much
Everyone
you bench?
had fake legs, and you had real legs.
I-
Did you know?
I think that was Fred Wolf. That was funny because it was about everyone talks about how much they bench.
Mhm.
These juice head idiots, and they're all sitting around. They all have huge muscles, but they all have spindly legs that were like computer generated little sticks.
They,
Yeah.
Because these guys never do leg day.
They call
And
it
then-
golf tees. That look, golf tees.
Yeah.
Where you're just
Oh,
no
that's
legs
it.
and you go up. Yep.
And Fred was like, "Do you care you just use your legs because they're so skinny. And then I go, no, it'll be funny because someone will figure it out halfway through. They go, wait, it's Spade's real leg.
I know. I didn't figure that out. I looked at that. It was hilarious. Hans and Franz didn't have prosthetic legs. They had tiny legs.
No, well, I don't know if we had some thigh padding or whatever. I'm not sure. And
They were just
our
mostly
sweats were kind of
shoulders.
baggy, but we had we had biceps and shoulders. I love being in that outfit, man.
Fucking Hans.
Yeah,
and
it was all
Franz.
about the clap and then the flex afterwards.
Well, they were paranoid, delusional people with imaginary enemies. They never lifted a weight. They just would admonish people who doubted them. And if you don't think
Oh
we're
my
properly pumped, believe me now and hear me later, we could very easily come to your house and stretch your flab in the shape of a rope ladder so you can crawl down in the sewer because that's where losers live. You know, it was all of our... Sorry, I had to fit that
I
in.
love it when they gave you too hard of a question and you guys got confused.
Yeah, we don't
like,
know. Our muscles are confused. I can't believe it. That we love those characters.
I like how easily you do Hans and Franz again. Yeah, hear me now and believe me later.
Hear him now. That was Kevin's. Oh, so funny.
Chris liked the Gap Girls. All right, I was in
yeah.
the Gap Girls, David.
What about
Chris always put me in all the sketches when I went to visit him at Saturday Night Live. So I was in Gap Girls once, and then I was in a one with Bill Murray called The Whipmaster.
what was
Sounds
that?
funny.
Whipmaster with Schneider.
The Gap had a guard, Tom. What's your name, Johnny? Because
Yeah.
because Franken was talking about Al Franken said he stole some jeans when the guard was crying during Hey Jude. And they had a guard because the Gap was so into the sketch that they would send us a real corner of the store. So
Yeah.
they would make it look exactly like the Gap for branding.
Tons of clothes.
Wow.
Tons of clothes, and it was all
Jeans.
real and all expensive. And then they had a guard there, which was very odd. But I love I just made it more cool. I loved it.
Oh my God, yeah. Another last thing is cleaning up is Spade says when McCartney came on to Saturday Night Live that when he was walking down the hallway, the Farley boys were all there drinking and hanging out and said, "Hey, Paul, you're getting a little salty up top." No, that was Tommy that said that. I wasn't even in New York. I wasn't there.
Should I ask Tommy when we talked to him if that was him?
Yes.
But
you
Tommy
do
said that to Paul McCartney.
Tommy said that out loud because, and I was like, "You did what?"
Salty on top.
Dear
No, he
God.
said, here was the quote. He's drinking, and they walk
Yeah.
from the music to the stage. He's got his earpiece in with a bodyguard, and he's got 10 feet where he has to deal with real people, like all these clowns that are jammed in there
Yelling
with
at
the
him
red
and
cups,
stuff.
drunk.
Yeah.
And he's like slow motion. They're like, Paul McCartney, 30 seconds. And he walks out. We're all like, oh my God, Paul McCartney. And then Tom Farley with his red cup buzz goes, hey, Paul. And Paul turns and he goes, getting a little gray. And then he goes, touches his hair as they open the door. Then you see him go on the monitor and he's tuning his guitar and he looks at a monitor and looks at his hair and goes like, where was it gray so you can get in my head right before I go on live TV?
He told me
God
that
dang.
story, Paul did. And his
Oh,
thing,
dear
the same
God.
thing was said, except Paul remembers saying back, I'll have to shake in some Sgt. Pepper. And that was his
There we
quiz. You know,
Yeah, there you go, Dana.
Sergeant Pepper?
there we go. You know, we were lads. You know, we were lads. We were chums, and we plunked. You know, greatest
He
band
goes
in
all the way
history.
back to that.
Yeah,
He just talks about being lads.
yeah. We were lads. You know, we would sit and plunk. And I'd look at John, he'd look at me, and we'd be plunking. And that's how we came up with Abbey Road. Anyway, I
a good
fit these
story.
in for
All
a
right, last
newsman.
story.
John Farley.
Here's the last
No,
story.
he's got
I
one
one last
more.
one.
Here he comes.
One last one is a good one.
We're loving these.
Kevin and I were at, it was Mother's Day coming up, and it was after the Mother's Day special, so it wasn't that. We were going to get Mom something, or maybe it was for Christmas. We were going to get Mom something, and we went down, looked around New York, and we found this cute little brooch that goes, a woman's brooch, the clown that goes on.
Mhm.
We're like, oh, we'll give this to Mom. Went back
Ugly.
upstairs into the Chris's dressing room, and we put it by his chair, and then we went out and looked around watched the show, and we see the closing bows, and we see Chris getting up in the closing bows, and he's wearing the brooch, and he goes, "Thanks, guys, this is a great brooch. I love it. It's a clown." And we were like, "That's for Mom. That's a woman's." Never mind, Chris. Looks good on you.
Loser. John Lovitz was not part of this, but he forced his way.
Yeah. John sent in a tape. We just decided to use it. No, John Lovitz had some really funny personal interactions with Chris. So this was a slightly different flavor, but always fun to listen to John.
Chris told me he didn't like either one of them. All right, what did you want to ask?
You mean our friend Chris Farley?
Funny. That's funny. All right.
So that's what he said.
The joke.
That's what we do on this podcast. It's called.
You two should have a show together. Did you ever think about
John,
that?
on the last thing we had Mrs. Farley, and she said, "Oh, when I did the Mother's Day special, we had lunch with Donald Trump," and I go, "There's gonna be crab cakes," and I go, "Dana, go ahead." And then
There's
Dana
going to be
took
crab
over.
cakes like you wouldn't believe. You know, you're going to see a lot of crab cakes. And many people say they're not very good. They look at them and they say, no, but we're going to do it anyway. And we're going to do a lot of the crab cakes. It's just a song. I'll teach you the song.
It's hilarious.
It's, I got the guttural
How's
thing.
his mother?
His mother is adorable. She wanted to call her Mary Ann, but we called her Mrs. Farley throughout the interview. In the end, she goes, you can call me Mary Ann.
I know,
But-
we're like kids.
She's adorable.
I know.
and
She's nice. I haven't seen her in years. She's a very nice lady.
And his older brother Tom was very cool. Yeah, John, do you have any stories you'd like to share about the great Chris Farley? Did you hang
I
out
have a
with
lot
him?
of stories about Chris.
Did you ever meet him?
I'll tell you good and bad stories. The first time I met him was in the offices of Brillstein Gray, and he was going to be on SNL, and I knew that he said he idolized John Belushi, and I remember at the time thinking, did everyone really do everything they could to help John Belushi? And Bernie goes, we did everything. We had a 24-hour bodyguard. He goes, well, yeah. But I go, it was so unfathomable to me when Belushi died. I just go, something's wrong. Like, I don't know. And that was my naivete because I thought, well, you really did everything?
That's what people think. People think you're not doing anything. People ask me, why
Right.
didn't you
And
say
I realized, of course they did, but the person has to stop. But anyway, I didn't understand. I just thought, God, really everything? So when I met Chris, he goes, I idolize Belushi. And I knew he was into drugs and stuff. I just said, this guy's going to kill himself. So I done a movie, Mr. Destiny, that I was a supporting role, and it starred Jim Belushi. And I worked. I knew Jim.
I like supporting role.
So I called Jim's agent at the time was a guy Mike Menschel at CA. So I called Mike, and I told him about Chris, and I said, "Could you ask Jim to call this guy because he's going to get on SNL? He idolizes John, and I'm afraid he's going to do something to himself." Anyway, after Chris passed away, I ran into Jim. I said, "Hey, did you ever get my message from Mike Menschel from me that I said to call Chris?" And he said, "Yeah, I did." I go, "Oh, did you call him?" He goes, "I did call him." I said, "Well, what did you say?" He said, "I said, my brother's dead. You get it?" And that's what he said. But this was before Chris was famous or anything. So then you got to look, well, what happened? Who was one of his closest friends when he passed away?
Do arrows point to me, John?
I think so.
Your square is lighting up like a game show.
It all comes back to Spade.
Ding, ding, ding,
Arrows
ding,
around
ding,
me,
ding.
Instagram
We have a
arrows.
winner.
We have.
But I'll tell you two stories, two funny stories about Chris.
Number one.
I'll end with the funnier one.
That.
So he said, so we were close friends, and Gervitz and I had that beach house, and you guys would come over.
Yeah. Remember seeing Chris there.
So Chris would come over a lot, and so one time, this is when he was sober for 3 years, and I'm talking to him in the garage of the beach house, and I said, "Chris, I'm only saying this story so maybe it helps somebody who's addicted, but anyway, I said, Chris, it's great that you got sober. I go, but now you got to lose weight. I go, my dad's a doctor, and I always was very blunt with Chris. I go, my dad's a doctor, and I told him about you. And he said, oh, that's too bad. He won't live to 40 because of your weight. You got to lose weight. And he goes, no, John, my dad's like 6'6" or 6'5", weighs 600 pounds. My dad's was 600 pounds. He's 65. He's still alive. I go, well, Chris. And I said, but you got to love yourself.
He did get you there, though.
Yeah, that was a good point. So I go, Chris, you have to love yourself. And he goes, okay, but John, if I love myself, and I love drugs and they make me feel good and I deprive myself of drugs, isn't that depriving myself of love? And so we started
God,
laughing.
he got you twice.
Laughing, and I said,
Damn.
"Shut up, you idiot."
Fucking, I rest my
Well, it
case.
was funny,
Court
but it was
adjourned.
not. I go, "Shut
Well,
up, you idiot." He was laughing too.
Yeah.
I said, "Yeah, Chris, they make you feel good, but they kill you, you know."
I think people need to know when we do all these stories and we talk and we laugh, we're not laughing at anything about morbid, about the death. It's just the way we were always together laughing about stuff like this and the way friends laugh about that stuff. It was
he was funny. I mean, it was a funny thing
everything
to say,
is funny when you're with comedians. So everything we would make fun of, even if it's you think you shouldn't. So
well, he was making a joke about it, you know.
Yeah, of course.
He was always kind of joking, even when he was serious, you know.
I mean, I remember one time we went to, I don't know if Dana, I think it was Dana and you, David and Chris. I know it was you and Chris. We went to a Laker game in my car. Do you remember that? And Chris had like 6 beers. And then we went to that club, Bar One. And I know David, I don't forget Dana was there.
I know this story, yeah.
David was there, and I go, "Let's go to Bar One," and we go, and Chris leans into me, and go, "I just did a bag of mushrooms or something." I go, "Jesus," you know. I mean, he was just his appetite was amazing, but he was a great guy, and he was the funniest. And I had 2 things he did that were so funny. One was I used to have a Super Bowl party at my house because it was fun, and I'd have David was there, and Chris.
Yep.
One time, David came and. With a lot of people, and Chris came with his brothers and everything. So I just gotten these 2 new kittens. So I put them in a room. There's like 100 people at my house. Anyway, I put them in a room in my house and shut the door and put a sign up, "Do not enter, cats inside." So about half hour into the party, I'm walking down my hall to my bedroom, and I hear Chris go, "John." And he's in the bedroom where the cats, and I look in, and I had these rolls. I had the party was catered like for hot dogs
roll
and stuff, but they were shaped like a football. And he had the kitten in the roll, and like he was eating it
like it was a sandwich.
Yes, like a sandwich. And it was the funniest. Of course, he wasn't hurting the cat, and my cat was just hanging there. Had no idea. The little kitten, cutest thing, had no idea what was happening. And
didn't know he was in a bit
in a sandwich. Yeah, with Farley just biting on the sandwich. And I have a picture of it. It's on Twitter.
How did you take a picture of it? Did you have an?
I said I was crying, laughing. I go, "Stay here. I gotta get my camera to take a picture."
We will put it up on my Instagram.
Yeah, I took a Polaroid. It was the funniest thing ever. And then, well, you want to hear another story? Is it matter?
We have time for one more.
Raunchy or?
We have editing capabilities, so
Yeah,
I wouldn't put any.
All right. So I was at the beach, and I had this girl over that I liked. So we're out on the deck facing the ocean. She's really pretty and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we had an outdoor shower. Anyway, Chris was there. So I'm talking to this girl and stuff. And then I hear this voice, "John," as
Same
usual.
thing.
"John, what?" So I turn around, and he's naked and just covered in soap with his hair and his whole body from head to toe. So I go,
throw it away.
So
it's all right. It's a vivid picture.
So I say to my friend, the girl, she doesn't see it. So of course I say, "Turn around," to her. "Turn around."
Of course.
What? Turn around.
Ruin her life.
This is your first date?
Yeah. So she turns around and she's like, "Oh!" She sees Chris, and Chris is like, "Oh!"
And he's screaming.
Of course, I'm crying, laughing.
Yeah.
So then, and she's beat red. So then later on, about 10 minutes later, he's toweled up. He's got a towel around himself, and he walks in front of us facing the ocean, and he drops the towel. And he's right in front of our lounge. He's like, 2 feet away. And he drops the towel completely nude and says, "Hello, Malibu." And then he's laughing. And then he bends down to pick up his towel. Well, the momentum
Go
swung
ahead.
his balls between his legs and right into the girl's face.
John.
Oh, God. You're a very observant person.
And she screamed. She screamed again.
Well, listen, and you ended up marrying her. And that woman is my wife.
These are real Farley stories, not the fake ones that you guys tell. And then he put the towel around him, And I go, Chris, come here. And I go, when you bent over, your balls went through your legs right in front. She goes, nuh-uh. I go, yeah, they did. He goes, nuh-uh, John. I go, nuh-uh. I go, ask her. And he looks at her. He goes, did they? And she looks at him, beat red with her head shaking up and down. He's like, oh, it was hilarious. And then there was the fire story at the
what was the
Malibu
fire?
Beach.
I
when
can't
Malibu
believe
was on-
Jennifer Aniston had to put up with that.
She wishes it was her.
John, this
If
fire
I
was
tell
so
you who the
real.
girl was, you might get upset. But
Tell
her
me
name was
after.
Oh, I knew you were going to say
Paula.
Mhm.
Paula's
My wife.
Anyway,
Okay. All right.
oh, the fire story in '93. I was shooting a film called City Slickers 2. I don't know if you guys.
Every story you have starts with a promotion for a movie you were in.
So I'm in Culver City.
Yes,
shooting this
shooting.
movie,
What movie was it?
City Slickers 2.
Oh, yes.
And the fires are raging. Oh, and I can see it on TV. And for some reason, I was talking to you, David,
Mhm.
and I think you said you called. Oh, we're talking about the fires, and you called Chris. I go, where is he? He goes, he's out in the ocean in front of your house. And Chris said, you said, how's the beach? And he goes, it's nice, but it's really overcast. And I think, David, you said, you idiot, that's not clouds, it's smoke from the fire.
And by the way, the fires were so bad. The house I bought in Malibu, which is right down from where
Oh, it
yours
burned
was,
down.
It burned down. So I bought it after they rebuilt it because I was.
Yeah, it was 5 houses away from me. The fire was so across the street, the fire station was on fire. So they had these helicopters.
That's not good.
So I called Chris. I go, no, that's right. David told me he was in the house. So I called Chris. I go, you're in the house? Yeah. I go, you got to get out of there. But can you get some stuff in my room? I go, can you just get a bag and put like this and this and this? He goes, no, I'm only getting $3. I'm like, God damn it, Chris, you asshole. Get the shit, you fucking ass. No. So he wouldn't get it. And I remember watching the thing. And there was a helicopter above the house. My house that were rented with Gervitz. And you could see it, the house, and you could see that it was all of a sudden covered in smoke. And I go, crap, the house just burned down. And it didn't, but the fire was directly across the street from the house. I mean, it was that close. And Chris just thought it was overcast. And David had to get out of there, you idiot.
Well, how did he get out of there?
Got in
If I
his
tell you
Viper.
how, you'll get mad. Paula, your wife, swam up on a raft and said, hop on.
It's so predictable.
I guess he drove. He drove out of there, but it was
okay.
I remember. I think Gertz said he was driving. He could feel the heat on. He was driving on.
It's so
Pacific Coast
hot,
Highway
yeah.
from the mountains, but the hill directly across the street was on fire from the beach.
And they would jump.
The fire, all those houses got burned.
Mm-hmm.
Houses on that beach got burned.
I didn't like that his central nervous system didn't work. I go, Chris, can you at least, let's say it's clouds. Can you feel the heat? Yes. Okay. It's a fire. And then,
you had to
go.
tell him.
Yeah. He couldn't get it that he shouldn't be out in the water anymore. And he had to come in. But, John, you did a Coneheads with him. Well, you didn't have any scenes with him?
I was in Conehead. I didn't have any scenes with him. I'll tell you though, I think he was a great actor. I saw him. He guested on a Tom Arnold at a sitcom. I remember he guested on it. And I remember watching him in that. And I thought his acting was great. I like
acting.
Boy, he really can act. No, but
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't just being silly. I mean, he had the whole package. But the funniest thing was, when he first got on the show, like you, David, you looked up to Dana and I as like your heroes. So anyway,
yes,
because we were there before. And then Chris started doing movies. And I said, Chris, how much are you getting paid in the movie? He goes, $6 million. And then he looked at me and goes, John, students become the teacher. And then
and now the student has become the teacher.
Wasn't that something I told
That's a
him?
great
And then
one.
he
probably, but he said it.
Yeah.
It was very funny.
I've heard
when
that
he
one for a
started
while, yeah.
doing well on the
Well,
show.
honestly, I think I said it, and then I said it one night to you know who, and then she said it to you, Dana.
I just thought it was
Oh,
when a young cast member started getting good. I'd say the student becomes the teacher, but maybe
Or now
I
the
did it
pupil
as
becomes the
Hans.
teacher.
No, I believe you. Well, he said it to me.
No,
It's a good one.
it's a good one.
Anyway, yeah. You, I'm trying to think of another.
I met him but right before he got the show. I remember he was visiting the show. The first thing I heard about him was from Bob Odenkirk. He goes, "Oh, this guy, wait till this guy gets, he's so funny. He's so funny. He just stands there and he's funny. He's going to be the funniest guy in the show." And of course, we're like, well, I'm sure he's funny. I don't know if he'll be funny.
Calm down,
Of
Bob.
course he was hilarious. But I mean,
yeah, sure.
Off screen, everyone goes, "Who's the funniest ever?" And Chris would, I mean, you guys are hilarious. But he would do anything.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he would throw himself on the sidewalk. He'd just be, "Hey, lady," and he would just like hurl himself down on the sidewalk.
He goes, "I'm a trainer," and he started doing push-ups in front of girls. They're like, "What the fuck?" He's like, "I run a gym nearby." He just does push-ups, and they just keep walking.
Yeah,
it's pretty funny.
There's other stories about him that I'll tell you guys. That
you
make
can
the
tell
other
one even.
No, they make the other one seem mild. I can't tell him. But, he was a great guy.
Well, there's a showstopper. Now all our fans are clicking off.
Yeah, just say one and we'll cut it out later.
We'll cut it out later, okay?
Because your time's up already.
No, I can't. I'll tell you guys in person.
Why don't you tell me when you take me to catch steak and my fucking fish is $150?
Why don't we all go to dinner tonight? Now, I'll buy you dinner, even though you're making money off my stories and I'm making shit.
Making money off
Might want to turn the podcast back on.
Lie on the floor.
Yeah.
Why aren't you two in
John's Joint, the new podcast from Cadence? It's John's Joint. It's Spade.
No, I'm doing a podcast. I go, "Hi, I'm a little fly and I'm on a wall. Oh, I wonder what Dana and David are saying. Let's listen." Then I play your podcast. I go, "Well, be back next week."
That's what they're saying.
Darn you, love it.
Well, John, you seem like a great guy.
I should do a critique of your podcast. That would be funny.
We're going to play it back. I'll tell you where they were right and where they were wrong.
The thing about David and Dana, it's that thing of like, they're both on the show and they're both blonde. And David looked up to Dana and Dennis Miller. And then he got on the show and then he had his little update Hollywood piece. And then he grew and he became partners with Farley. And it's that thing of like,
Yes, that was a good Lauren. We got a Lauren on him. We'll do a compilation.
He's still looking for the new Chris. And he found it.
Every time he sees a fat person, he feels like this might be it.
Every time he sees a fat person, an angel gets its wings. What?
What?
What? It's a wonderful fatty. The new motion picture.
I actually love it when Lauren was on. I go, "I appreciate that," because I was having trouble the first 3 years. I go, "that you didn't give up on me." He goes, "You were supposed to be there the whole time. That was always the plan."
I never told you this. I thought you were bringing the show down. And I said, "Lauren, it's either, if you want me to come back."
I appreciate your candor.
You got to.
How would you have done
that Hollywood minute?
Let's see if you could do the bye-bye character. The flight attendant.
The Hollywood minute. I would have done it.
Really?
Do it.
Oh, yeah. Is this thing still
Goodbye,
on?
baby.
You're
Goodbye.
still recording, aren't you?
Fuck yeah. We're going to trap you.
Goodbye.
Goodbye-bye, everybody. Goodbye-bye. Do your catchphrase. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye.
I'll give you one. I'll give you one where you can sing. Ready?
Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye.
All right.
Well, it wasn't just saying that. It wasn't just.
It was a whole sketch.
It was a whole thing. It was too complex.
No, it was very simple. His name was Mr. Canby, and he was the richest man in the world, and he was an idiot, and he had all these businessmen on his board, and he drove them nuts, and he'd say, "Well, I'm leaving. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye." They go, "Bye, Mr. Candy. See you later, everybody. Goodbye, Mr. Canby. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye." And then I'd leave. They go, "What do we do while you're gone?" I go, "Bye, Kit Kat." "Well, goodbye, everybody. Goodbye." Because I'd be eating a Kit Kat.
Your name's Mr. Candy?
Canby, Canby. So he'd leave the room.
Worse.
And then Phil Hartman and Dana and Whitney Brown, they go, "God, can you believe we work for this idiot? He's such a moron." And Phil's like, and then Whitney goes, "Yeah, buy 500 shares of Kit Kat." And he hangs up. He goes, "God, it's so stupid. He's such a moron." Then the phone rings and Phil goes, "Hello? What?"
You don't say.
"Oh, you're kidding." And Whitney goes, "What?" Phil goes, "Kit Kat just went up 300 million.
Jeez.
And then I come back, in the room. "Hello, everybody. I forgot my wallet." And then
So after the sketch was over, you'd have to get a quick
then
Is the sketch ever over?
Mr. Canby. And then Phil goes, Mr. Canby, Kit Kat just went up 300 billion. I go, well, you see, buy what you love and you can't go wrong. And at that, Lorne burst out laughing hysterically.
So after the sketch, you would get ready for good nights, right? When you'd finish Mr. Canby, you'd have to do a quick change for
I'm
good
just
nights.
saying that was the sketch.
Because it was
and then
on
Lorne
at
goes,
1
you
minute
can't
to
say
one.
goodbye, everybody, goodbye. It's
I
ridiculous.
know, but it was on at
And the
12:57.
The next year, you had David Spade going, bye-bye, bye-bye, bye-bye.
Bye-bye,
I go,
goodbye. Yeah.
I thought
And
you
Lorne
couldn't
goes,
say that.
genius.
Yeah. I thought you couldn't say that. No, so I ended up sticking it in. At the end of it, I did Tales of Ribaldry. I go,
Ribbery.
well, good night, everybody. I go, good night, everyone. I'm Evelyn Quince. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye.
So
And
you,
and they told me that I snuck it in. And the whole control room, they said everyone applauded and cheered, like, yay, got it in. Just like I got it in, Dana. You know what?
I don't know what he's saying.
Can
we just air that part and the whole sketch and then not air anything else?
Nothing else. Just
Go
a
ahead.
goodbye, everybody. Goodbye. It was a great
Go ahead.
money. He wants money. Oh, Jesus Christ. He needs some
What are
money.
you guys making?
Peanut
we
butter,
making?
peanut butter sandwich.
I'm
You
gonna
think
guess,
I get paid for this?
no, but if you did get paid, I would say
No. I'm leaving. Bo Derek came off of the movie 10. She did Tommy Boy. She was an international star, lovely lady. And here's her recollections.
David's wearing the bathing suit you wore in the movie 10, just to be pithy. So I thought it was a bad choice, but he's wearing it.
Well, Dana, I will tell you that Bo was in Tommy Boy.
Yes, and Master of Disguise, but Tommy Boy was a bigger hit.
She was in Master of Disguise? I don't even know.
Of course. Sorry about
Yeah,
that.
I opened it, I think.
Yeah, I think you were in the. Yeah, it was sort of like you were flying around, and then she turns into James Brolin, I believe. Right? It was as if James Brolin could put a disguise on and look like Bo Derek.
Oh.
Anyway, it did 40 million domestic and 100 million with video, so it was still not that anybody's.
Nice.
I didn't get any of that, but anyway, thanks for coming on. But Tommy Boy, which has gotten shinier and brighter, as I like to say, in these 30 years, it's sort of a cult classic now with Chris and you and Rob Lowe. So. Anyway, do you have a question, David, since you were in the movie as well?
Well, I just want to say that Bo probably might have some musings, and you don't need to have hardcore, hilarious stories, but I know that Chris liked you a lot. I thought we all had it was a bit of a tough shoot at times, but it was really fun and one of my great memories, obviously, and you could not have been sweeter. Do you remember anything about that movie that jumps out at all?
I remember I don't know, David, nobody's ever told me who dropped out that I took.
Oh.
That I jumped in and took that part.
You know, Bo, I can't even tell you. I know Julie Warner was Chris's girlfriend in it. You were Brian Dennehy. That's such a good question. I don't know.
Yeah, I was just curious because I was in Hong Kong working on a clothing line of all things, trying to check out whether they really had slave labor or not.
Yes.
And at the factory.
Wow.
And I got a call and I promised, jump on a plane to Toronto that night.
Oh my God! Got on that Southwest
and then
flight.
I shot that afternoon.
Wow!
The bathing suit shot.
Was that when you were in the pool and you came out and met Dennehy and Brian? And Farley?
Yeah, it was.
Oh.
Yes.
Jeez.
Off the plane, in the pool.
You know, that's such a good question. Who was it? Well, we're lucky it wound up being you because just, I don't want anything different about that movie. It worked the way it worked, and I wouldn't have it any other way. And so exciting to have you there. I thought we had a good time there. We didn't do all our scenes together. I wonder, Dana, if Bo was there, if she remembers when Farley and I got in an argument when he stepped on my hand in the tuna fish sandwich, and then we walked into the scene. And I think the scene was Bo and Rob. Is that possible, Bo?
Yes, I don't remember one argument.
Ah, there you go.
I remember quite a few arguments. You guys were, I could say, brothers, and sometimes lovers.
Yes. I think we always used to joke that we were like an old married couple, except we slept in the same bed. But you know, we would go back and forth as Bo knew, like everyone knows, Toronto to SNL. The worst part about it for me was I wasn't in much, and I was a writer, so I would sort of have to write my own stuff, and I didn't have time to write anything. So I'm like, do I have to come back for read through if I'm not really in anything? And Farley would get 19 sketches written for him, so it was tough for me just mentally and humiliation-wise to go all the way back and then come all the way back. But the whole experience, in hindsight, like surgery, was one of the best of my life. I mean, I think you must hear about Tommy Boy still. I hope you do.
I hear about it all the time. I was just at the big Chargers Kansas City game Sunday, and everybody was coming up and talking to me about that. Yeah.
Wow.
It's really especially in a crowd like that, you can imagine.
Oh, that's right in the pocket. Oh, yeah. I mean, I have to say, I think about Chris. I'm not even lying when I say every day, because there's little things. In Tommy Boy, we would play sometimes at the hotel or in makeup. The stupid song, Maxine Nightingale, you got to get right back to where you started from. It's like just this toe tapper of a song. And it just made us in a good mood. And we'd play it, and it was so dumb. But out of nowhere, that song comes on. There's a lot of songs that you don't realize remind you of people. And then Dancing in the Moonlight, we tried to get in the movie, and we didn't have time to shoot it. But that song now reminds me of him. So there's a lot of that kind of thing going on. And that it really tugs your heartstrings, because if I don't hear about Tommy Boy, I think of something about him, or Black Sheep, or, you know, I have his Tommy Boy jacket in the house, and there's pictures up. So it's just, I'm not going to get away from it. I don't want to get away from it. We talked at the very end. Bo is right. There was some tension here and there. Overall, we tried to laugh off everything, because it is fun to do a movie. It is hard, but it's fun.
It's fun.
And, you know.
No, you guys were great. And did you have any sense that it was going to be a big hit while we were doing it?
Not really. I think we were just so excited to be in a movie, and letting it just come up with stuff on the set, and we had a script that was kind of funny, and then we just crossed our fingers. But we weren't in that ethernet of people that were doing big movies. So to have a sleeper do well or open number one was such a big deal, and it was never that huge of a hit, Dana. It wasn't like Wayne's World is over 100 million. This was, I think it capped out like 35 million, but it lived on, and then it did bigger in video and on HBO. And then, you know, it just kept going. Mm-hmm. So I really like that. I like that it meant more to have it keep going.
So Bo, can I ask you a question? So when you got on the set, was that the first time you met David and Chris?
Yes. And I had just flown in.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you met them. I mean, which one was your first impression of David or Chris? Who was the more gentleman? Just, you know, because Chris.
What a horrible question.
I'm just trying to jog memories or stir the pot. But Chris liked beautiful women, and he had a very funny, flirtatious way about him, and a kind of an energy about him. I don't know if he ever picked you up or anything like that, but physically. But he was he's a hugger, a big teddy bear. But he must have been very enthusiastic to meet you, I'm assuming.
Yeah, he was. He was doing that scene where he was out in the little tiny dinghy boat on the lake.
Oh, classic.
When it was half sinking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he came out, and yes, he knew he was churning on the charm. And he was just adorable. You know, he has that, I think he had that striped T-shirt where his belly's hanging out.
Yeah.
And I didn't really know who everyone was from the telegram on the... Mm-hmm.
The telegram didn't give us the bio.
The telegram or the facts. We had facts.
Chris Farley, stop. David Spade. Chris Farley, stop.
Need you immediately.
David Spade.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah.
Yeah. No, David was. I remember you always had low blood sugar, and someone had to go get you a tuna sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
And but Chris was just charming, just fantastic. And
Chris had always just eaten a tuna fish sandwich.
And do you remember the cappuccino machine, that exotic thing that was in the trailer? and Chris would go in and down 3 scalding hot cappuccinos right before a take.
Oh, of course, yeah. And he would get in quotes moody later in the day.
Yes, you were both moody.
I know,
it
was
really
crazy.
Funny.
It was crazy, but yes, he the cappuccino was really to get up Dana because we hadn't done a movie, and he would drink a quick shot between each take at the beginning.
Ooh.
And then we all realized this is not.
That's going to come back to haunt you.
Yeah. So we sort of paced it out. But most of the movie is memorizing lines, and, it's getting colder as we shoot, and you're just trying to just keep the balls in the air and keep it fun and get laughs. But, yeah, I mean, I remember the last time I saw him, he was trying to ditch a reporter, and I hadn't seen him for a month or two. And he said, "Can you cover me?" Because he had 2 gals he ran into, and he goes, "Can you run a smoke screen?" And I said, "Yeah, I can buy you some time." And he said there was this movie he wanted to do. He goes, "All people care about is Tommy Boy. I don't know why we're not doing those anymore. Let's just do those again." And it was really nice. And then he went, and then he took those girls and got drunk, and then they went to Hawaii. And the guy and the reporter for Us Magazine goes, "Hey, where's Chris?" I go, "Oh, I think he went to the bathroom." And then about 10 minutes later, he goes, "Did he take off?" I go, "Yeah, I don't know, dude." And then they were a hair behind him. And then my manager called and goes, "Did you know Farley just charged 3 tickets to Hawaii on his card, and now he's over there?" And I go, I didn't, but it feels like those pieces fit together.
I want to be that spontaneous. I want to kind of just
crazy.
say to my wife, "Let's just go to the airport. Don't even pack. Let's just go. Pick a place to go." That seems.
I think you got to be more Chris. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good thing he would do. But Bo is used to flirting, so she could tell if Chris comes up with, "Hi, you're so purty."
Yeah, he would crouch
She
down.
can see it a mile away.
I could see
yeah.
him crouching down. Boy, yeah, he just had such a charm and an earnestness too. Yeah, I never had an argument with him, but David is scrappy physically. If he had to fight Chris, it'd be a match. But Chris
It might go up to 10 seconds before
he
I
was
lost.
double your size, or maybe triple.
He was pretty big.
Maybe it wasn't.
Maybe more.
I used to tell him he's a good-looking dude. I thought he had cool hair. I go, "You're actually a good-looking dude," because he couldn't believe all these girls liked him. And he goes, "I'm fat, but they just want somebody funny." I go, "You're actually not a bad-looking dude, and you are fun to hang out with." And so I don't know if Bo can vouch for that, but as a girl, he wasn't a bad-looking dude. Do you think?
Well, he's very cute, right?
Yeah.
He was cute. He was. His eyes are beautiful.
Yeah. See.
His eyes were really pretty eyes. And I remember and the same thing happened. I did a movie with Dudley Moore, and Chris picked me up. We were all going out to dinner and then a blues club, I think. And it was just the 2 of us in the car. He was speechless, could not speak, so shy, just had the hardest time.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Well, everybody gets that. I mean, that's you are slightly intimidating for when they don't know how nice you are.
No. He just, it happens. I think a lot of people who are funny tend to, put it on when there's an audience, and then all of a sudden one-on-one just frees up.
Well, listen, you got to work with them, and that's fun, and got to know them, and we had a great time sneaking over to that brass rail at night and spending our per diem. And
yeah. No, it was great.
Did you ever run into him since then? I remember at the premiere, I think Clooney was at the premiere because my mom said, "George Clooney's flirting with me." I go, "I don't know. I think he just said hello, Mom. I don't know if that's what that is." But Chris was there, and we saw you there, I'm sure, right? Were you at the premiere?
Yeah.
And then after that, did you ever run into him? Did you come to SNL?
I didn't. I never saw him again. That was the time. And he was really sweet. He was very thankful because, now I can't get arrested. But then, I helped kind of open the film in a way. And I did a lot of publicity because you guys were known in one sector, but not necessarily.
We weren't known much at all. You were like, if that was after 10, that movie, I wasn't in showbiz really when that came out.
It was after 10,
but knowing after 10, that when that came out, how much it must have changed your life, and how, when big movies come out and they do so well that people just freak out, and that's kind of seems like it must have been one of those. So of course you would have been huge help in getting that off the ground, way more than us.
Mm-hmm.
He was so sweet. He was so grateful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I am too, because that really got it going for me too. So
well, it's fun. The movie is evergreen, and it's just gonna trundle along, and someone somewhere is watching it right now, enjoying it. So it's fun to be part of a classic. You know.
Yeah, it's
a
keeping the
comedy
lights
classic.
on at TBS for the last 10
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing your stories about our friend Chris, and we're just kind of celebrating him.
Yeah, I loved him. Just loved him. Lucky to know him.
Next up is Brad Cravoy, who produced Chris's movie Beverly Hills Ninja. What year did you make that movie with him?
I think 1997. I don't know. I could find out for you, but it was right after Kingpin, Dumb and Dumber Kingpin, and then somebody said, you got to break out a little bit. And what about Chris? And so, David, I just learned about you and Chris at that time because you had just done Tommy Boy, right?
Right, yeah.
Right around that time. And I don't know, he was just the greatest. I want to talk a little bit about Ninja because it's come back in the news. Of course, you've heard that Christian Bale says it's a masterpiece and his favorite movie of all time. You guys know that, right?
Oh, I love that. I heard that.
I read that. That really made me laugh. Yeah. Well, we heard today that Jonah Hill's favorite movie is Tommy Boy. Yeah.
So Ninja, that was a big one. I have first a question, and we'll get to Ninja. On Kingpin, was Chris talking to you about playing Randy Quaid part? I thought that was happening.
Well, I love Chris. Okay, he was such an. I mean, you guys know better than anybody. He was such a sweet but funny guy. Who loved to entertain. Mm-hmm. So working with the Farley brothers, they have very strong creative visions about who they like. I wanted Chris for that. But I think Pete and Bobby wanted to go a little different direction, and they did a great job. Mm-hmm. Randy Quaid and Bill Murray and Woody. Mm-hmm. So that's how that went. And so that's why when I got the script for Beverly Hills Ninja, I was so happy because it was really perfect for Chris. And as far as I could tell, nobody was ever thinking about him for that role because it suited him so perfect. And when you think about it, because he was such a physical comedy guy, and the role is a fish out of water comedy. It was like, I couldn't believe it when I got the script. It was amazing. But the thing is, it almost never happened because, I mean, you guys work with Mark Gervitz, and he tortured me.
I think there's a drop more there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gervitz tortured me to no end, and Bernie a little bit, Bernie Brillstein, but Gervitz in particular. So when we finally figured it out, okay, and Chris did, agreed to do the movie because of Gervitz, because I think Gervitz ultimately helped. I said to Chris, I said, you know what? This guy Gervitz, he tortured me. What's your best prank we could play on him? So what we did is we had a night before cast dinner at the old Palm, remember, on Santa Monica, right around Doheny. Mm-hmm. We had the room, and we always called him Mr. Dark Cloud Gervitz because, nothing ever good was happened from this movie or any movie. It's never going to happen. So Chris coined him Chief Dark Cloud. And so I did a little research, and there was a local Indian tribe that had roots in Los Angeles called the Tonga Indian tribe. So we made a couple calls, and I got the chief to come to the dinner at the Palm. And Chris was basically set this up for Mark. And the chief came with a bunch of his buddies. They did a little powwow around the dinner table and then presented Mark Gervitz, Chief Dark Cloud, with Indian headdress. So if you go into his office today, because someone said they were in the office pre-pandemic, you would see it. But with the world the way it's going, I'm not sure he has the nerve to present it in public anymore, but it's probably there somewhere. But Chris was so happy to pull this prank on Gervitz. He was beaming. I mean, he was so happy. He was so happy to get Gervitz. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Gervitz, for the audience, is Dana's manager, my manager, Chris's manager, all this whole time. So that is funny because he's very tough on these deals. But I remember, I think Chris got $6 million. It was in Variety on the cover, and we all saw it at SNL in Lauren's office, laying out in that outside office, Dana, where you're waiting to go in.
Right.
And we were all like, what the fuck? No one knew. And Chris is like, is that a lie?
Yeah. Did he get that much, Brett? I mean, did he get 6 million, or is it classified?
You know,
What was it in the ballpark?
I would say he had never received a paycheck as large as that. Then, maybe after.
For sure.
But I don't think Tommy Boy had come out by then. Had it, David? Had Tommy Boy come out?
Well, no, I think Tommy Boy came out, then Black Sheep, and then I think Ninja. But Tommy Boy, he had a set price, and then Black Sheep, he had a 2-picture deal because of, he made a 2-picture deal with Paramount, but I didn't. And so I actually got more than him in Black Sheep because of a contractual snag. I had to renegotiate, and his was already set. And believe me, that fucking burned his onion. And then, you know what I mean? But then he went sky high with that.
Yeah, we made up for it. Yeah. And that's what Gervitz kept on saying. He's got to make more than Spade. He's got to make more than
Well,
Spade.
Good God. He blew by me on a rocket ship. And I think maybe was he in talks to do Cable Guy back then? And then that fell apart because of, I think, Black Sheep.
I think the timing on that, worked to help you on that movie. But you know what? I know he was so appreciative of earning what he did earn. But to me, he was like pure comedy genius. Like, I remember when we agreed we're going to do the movie, we wanted to work on some scenes on the script, like some set pieces. So I went to Chicago. I went to his place. We hung out. And this is like, it was a defining moment in my career, because after we were finished for the night, he goes, "Oh, let's go out partying." And he took me to this place, and he became one of the characters from SNL. And everybody there loved him. And he was like going crazy. He was sweating all over the place. He was dancing. And he was just having a really fun time. And that, to me, is like how I remember Chris. He had that side. He just loved life so much. And he loved to please people with his performance and his humor. I don't know how you felt working with him, but that was my experience.
He would light up the room because people would light up when they saw him.
And he would go out of his way, to be nice. So we had a Make-A-Wish wish on Beverly Hills Ninja. And I remember when the kid came to set, like, you would think Chris was his big brother. He took care of him all day. He went and made sure he was okay. Like, it meant a lot to him to look after somebody. And I just think it says so much to him. And I did a little research, and I remember now what happened, because he said, "Oh, will you take care of my buddy Chris Rock?" Because I think at that time Chris was just emerging. 25 years ago, Chris was just building his career, but everybody knew like Chris was a genius. I mean, Chris is a comedy genius. He's just unbelievable for what he does. So he goes,
and he was in Ninja, right?
Right. And he goes, "You got to find a part for my buddy Chris Rock." I said, "Are you kidding? Of course we're going to find a part for Chris Rock." Problem was that some people didn't accept the idea that we'd have another star like Chris Rock. And I kept saying, we got to make this part bigger. We got to make this part bigger. Right. We paid Chris well, but the part was really bad. And to this day, when I see Chris and he talks about Beverly Hills Ninja, he is not happy about the role he played. He played a bellhop. And
I remember, yeah.
And the director and he, I think, had a little thing. I don't know what happened. The next thing I knew, I'm looking at the dailies and remembering from set that Chris was chasing around some chickens at the hotel. And he was pissed. And he still talks about it today. And I wish we could edit that stuff out, because it's horrible. I mean, Chris Rock, he's the best. He's so funny.
I think it was between leaving SNL and his special coming out and being huge. So there was that in-between period for about a year where he took a job, got paid well, and it maybe, that happens in movies. It's not perfect, and obviously he's way better. But, it's just, we all were in Coneheads. That wasn't the best movie in the world, but everybody from SNL was like Jury Duty. We all did something in that. And that wasn't a huge hit. But Chris was in it, I was in it, Adam was in it. Everyone had something to do in it. And those things happen, but Chris Rock obviously landed on his feet, and we talked to him just recently with this thing.
Oh, today. You did?
Yeah, we talked to him just now. He was really slamming you. No, I'm kidding.
No,
and
he does.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
He hosted the Academy Awards one year. He did his monologue, and I had just finished a movie with Cuba Gooding Jr. I will not say the name. And the first thing he says when he gets up there, he goes, "Hey, anybody ever see that movie that Cuba did?" I go, "Oh, that was my movie."
Yeah.
So he's not happy still. He's still talking about
Did you, Brad, did you ever go after him for any other movies after that, or was it Ninja and that was it? Was it pretty much toward the end?
Well, the thing that I learned, because in my family, there was somebody that had, issues of addiction. And so I was always really sensitive to that. And I just kept thinking he was so perfect. He was always on time. He was always so professional. He wanted to do the best job as long as he was scheduled. And then the second, the movie ended, it seems like things went a little bit crazy, right?
Yeah.
Because it was unscheduled. And so I definitely wanted to work with him again. We talked about a couple other projects, but it didn't come to be. And the saddest part, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to get this is like an upbeat thing, but
That's okay.
he always would say, my idol, John Belushi, and I want to be like him, and it's going to end like that. And I said, Chris, no, you're the new version, the one's built to last, right? And I mean, John Belushi, genius, right? But that was like his older brother, almost like his idol. And he just emulated everything he could. It seemed to me at that time in his life when I was with him, and it just didn't have to be, because he loved everybody, Chris. He was also really spiritual. There were times like, I think we had to work on a Sunday, and he asked to get, a local church member to come give him communion on that day. Like, he was really a spiritual guy.
Yeah. Every Sunday he'd go out all night, go straight to church. No joke. He would just go, I gotta be there. I gotta be there no matter what, at like 7 a.m. mass or whatever. And he'd go, and then he goes, okay, back to normal. He needed that,
And he loved you. And so that was the one thing we try to do, is to find something that you guys could do together that wasn't a Tommy Boy type thing, because that's such a great movie.
They're all going to just turn into that if we did them. That's the way it is. But it's funny. I remember Aykroyd pulling him aside to tell him Belushi was my guy, and you just can't do it. You can't go down that road, because Chris loved Belushi. He'd wear Belushi's. He'd find his pants in a wardrobe that were still there that said it on the inside, and he'd wear them under his pants. He'd put his pants on, then he'd put his other big pants on, just to get the magic of whatever, So he was, and Belushi, I think they both died at 33. So it was leading down that road, and he always had a caveat where, Belushi partied hard, and if I want to be like him, even though he knew down deep it wasn't really the way, but it was unfortunately the road he went down.
Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you, he'd be so happy now to hear that Christian Bale, arguably one of the best actors of his generation, saying that Chris Farley's performance in Beverly Hills Ninja was a masterpiece. I love that. He'd be so happy.
I cannot. I mean, it was Christian Bale. You're right. Probably, arguably, one of the top 3 actors out there. Unbelievable.
Yeah, as good as it's ever been.
Well, just the fact that he's
film actor.
Still like a worldwide star, Farley. I mean, everyone. It's getting to the point now, unfortunately, where I meet younger people. They don't know him, and I just go, that's just the way it is. There's just going to be a wave of people that just don't know him anymore, and it's unless they see these movies, but they always play, and. But that's where you get a little scared. You're like, oh, you got to remember them. And that's why things like this are good. Just keep it out there. It makes people go look them up if they don't know them.
It happens to anybody. My son, at one point a few years back, he goes, hey, Dad, who was Johnny Carson again? So it's
but of course, they just don't know. And it was ground into our memory banks every day of our lives. And then it's just not.
But, when you make a movie like Tommy Boy or really Beverly Hills Ninja, they're evergreen, and they're silly. And there's a magic. A lot of young people really like to look at 90s comedies and 80s comedies. There weren't as many rules, and they were just more overtly comedic. I don't know how you describe. You could speak better to that, Brad, about just the change of how to make a comedy today versus back then. But It is a different time. That's all right.
But Dana, your comedies, if you don't mind me saying, were really important for that era because the first one you hit out of the park with Mike was incredibly good and funny and countercultural like. Because it seems like every 10 years there's the comedy that comes along that sets the table, right? From the past 10 years, it's different, it's special, and people start talking about it. And you did that. And I don't think Beverly Hills Ninja was exactly in that category. It's more traditional fish out of water. We'd seen that before. Crocodile Dundee came out where, fish out of water, Australian guy comes to LA. So, and I feel like Ninja was special in that regard because you saw a different culture through the eyes of Chris's character. And you saw what it was like to live in sort of a society that had ninjas, because ninjas exist. Ninjas exist.
Listen, it's a funny premise. You get the funniest guy out there, arguably at the time, to do it. And it's a good recipe. Why not make that movie, And I think I think you really liked Nicolette Sheridan and that. They got along, right?
No, they really got along. And I remember we were talking about casting and we were, suggesting different names. And I said, well, what about one of the most beautiful women in the world, great actor, Nicolette Sheridan? He goes, yes! Yeah,
I know. Like that. He was doing cartwheels, yeah.
Yeah, he was so happy. That's the other thing, too. Like, he did so many of his own stunts and he got messed up a lot with those stunts. Like, I can't even imagine somebody today doing the degree of stunts he voluntarily did. And one of the times he butted his head and like the wood was supposed to break and he hit a stud and it didn't break.
Gosh.
And he had this huge bump on his head and makeup, had to cover everything up, and he wouldn't complain. Like, he would just like keep going. He would just keep going because he was such a professional. Like,
Brad, in Tommy Boy, I have to break a board across his head, and so they score it, and it's balsa wood, but it's still a fucking board across your head. And I did one, and he's like, God damn it, after the take. And so the guy comes over, I go, score it so it's basically falling apart. It should be styrofoam, but it was actually very light wood, and they scored it so it would break. And I did it again, and Farley's like lately going, all right, I got one more in me. And that's for him to complain. It must have just concussion protocol, because I kept going, I don't want to hit him. And they're like, just one more. And Farley's like, I can take it. And you see him going, do not hit me here. Hit me here. And I'm like, what are we doing? And today they never would have let us do that. It was like, no way. It's too dangerous.
Balsa would. Yeah, just get a loud sound effect on it.
Yeah, just get styrofoam and have them go, oh.
Oh, Davey.
Thing was,
David.
Chris is so big physically. And he could move around so that we would do the stunt casting he would do himself in the fight with Robin Shue, his co-star. And he could move around. And he was agile. Like, that was the thing. It was so weird. He was like, he could have been a gymnast because he does all those flips. He could do the splits, and he was doing these swirls with the kicks against this ninja guy. Like, and he was kicking his ass. It was incredible.
He can stand like ballet stance and kick his leg really high to the side. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, I remember that move. Yeah,
you know that one?
Hey, look. Yeah, no, he was an athlete. We've talked about that. He was, a heavy set athlete, but underneath he was just so flexible, agile, and what a great physical comedian. Just could throw himself around.
Well, Ninja was the movie for that. You had him doing a bunch of different things, which just played into his stuff.
That script had been around for a long time, and we had it. We got it. We figured out. We'd figure out the last act, make it a little bit better, a little bit more funny, and then work on him to make it better. And he had really good instincts about comedy, physical comedy in particular. To try this, to try that. He's good that way. He really understood the genre. I mean, you would know better than anybody, David, after working with him on SNL and the movies, but he really understood comedy.
Yeah. Well, Dana worked with him too. We know it very well, and it's great talking to guys like you. We appreciate it, Brad. Thank you very much, buddy. Jim Belushi was nice enough to talk to us, and this is one where it gets a little deeper because of his brother John and John's heavy influence on Chris Farley. Jim looks good.
I'm doing all right.
Jim looks great. Last I saw you was at the 40th in New York. I believe.
Oh yeah. That was a great night.
Great time. Shit.
My favorite joke in that show was the in memoriam. Remember that joke?
They showed Lovitz.
They show.
We'd like to do a section of the in memoriam of those who passed: John Belushi, Gilda Radner, John Lovitz.
Yes, and then they cut to John. He'd be like,
I'm alive.
Yeah.
John's comedic persona is very specific, and that was an inspired thing. And of course, he loved it. Yeah. So, but yeah, there's only one John Lovitz, Jim Belushi from.
It almost feels like I get to see Jim Belushi never, and then we go into sort of a serious subject. But Jim.
Well, we talk a little bit before we get to Chris Farley, but Lovitz would probably go, "The world according to Jim." Like he would do that for 20 more years. But anyway, we love John. He's been part of our show, celebrating and remembering the one and only, really, Chris Farley. Such a sweet, brilliant guy. And any comments, Jim? You have a connection to him.
I love Chris. I felt a special connection to him because he had such a special connection and desire and love for my brother John.
Yeah.
So when he would see me, he would light up, and I'd be like, "Chris, I'm not John."
but you knew him.
Man, I know, but he was so great. It was so great. I know. Anyway, he kept going on about John, and I said, I know, he was beautiful, he was talented, man. I know. I say, I know. You got to stop chasing him, Chris. He's gone. I know. But I love him so much. He was so good. I said, Chris, you can't follow John. You can't follow his track. The guy did drugs. He's dead. You can't follow him with the drugs to find out who he was. I mean, I did it myself right after John died. I kind of increased my intake to try to get close to what John must have been feeling. And then one day I go, what the fuck am I doing? And then I just kind of cleaned up and stopped. But I told him that story too. And I said, you got to stop. You got to fucking stop, Chris. I know.
Yeah. He's always nodding his head. Yeah, I know. I'm going to.
But he was so beautiful. He was so beautiful. And I just kept repeating it. Chris, he's dead. Stop it. You've got to stop. I know. It wasn't a very successful.
Yeah. So obsessed with John.
It's like he wanted to be John.
Yeah. Jim, I don't know if you knew that when he would get the wardrobe, once he figured one of his pants said Belushi in them, because they're the same size, that he would wear them even if, first he goes, these are Belushi's. I go, I know, it's Chris. It is very exciting to be on that show and see someone from the shows before that we all looked up to. And then he would wear them under his regular pants during the show, and just for luck, for magic.
Yeah, no, I actually, the first couple of movies I did after that, one movie, Silver, I took a little hat of John's and I wore it in the movie just to kind of bring him along. And another movie, I wore a belt of his just to kind of bring him along. But addiction is an obsessive behavior.
Yeah.
And it just extended into obsessing about John.
Yeah, true.
Was it something, obviously you'd think, well, maybe he admired John because John was a pretty big guy and very physical and very spontaneous. And I mean, was it just relating to him, you think? Or was there something deeper just about John's personality that Chris admired, and emulated? I mean, who knows why we have certain idols, but clearly John was his idol comedically.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it was. I mean, he died at the same age. I don't know. He just he got obsessed with the guy. Maybe it's because he's Chicago. They were the same size or spontaneous.
Yeah, I think he saw himself like growing up going, oh, there's a guy like me. And he's like, and he's from Chicago, you know, and he'd always talk about like, and he'd bob his head like Aykroyd. And, you know, listen, we all grew up loving Belushi and Aykroyd and that whole everybody, you know, and when you're in it, you think you're shitty and they're great. And then it takes years to someone to say, oh, Chris, you're great. And I said, you're as good as Belushi. Toward the end, I said, I sound crazy, but as great as he was, you're up there, dude. He's like, no, never say that.
Yeah.
And, but the truth was he was great. And again, cutting it short for a crowd that could have seen a lot more. And you're right. There's no telling him no. And if you say it too much, we would have problems because
no.
You know, if he goes away from people that do that. And that's just normal.
Yeah, that's
addicts.
normal. That's normal addictive behavior. I mean, even John in the end, Danny said something very interesting, and that was, you know, when John died, the people that were around him, Danny didn't know any of those people.
Yeah.
None of them. So, you know, addicts kind of create a community that will support them, you know, that will indulge them in what they want to do.
Same lifestyle, yeah.
Yeah, they separate the people that are trying to help you. Yeah. So, addiction separates, you know, isolates.
I just wonder emotionally talking about this, does I mean, it's sort of something that I'm just getting in touch with now. You know, John, of course, I knew it was your brother, but I can kind of sense it's frustrating. And then Chris too, and you tried to warn him. I mean, you're just sort of someone who's dealt with this you're in your own lane in terms of emotional frequency because of this connection between Chris and your brother. And I don't know, I'm so outside the world, but you're inside it. And I kind of feel like,
well, you know, it's something that, look, addiction comes into a family like a snake, and it kind of wraps around your legs and then your hip and then your waist, your chest, and then your neck until it suffocates you and somebody dies. Every family that has addiction in it, there's a possibility of that strangulation. And the snake got John, the snake got Chris, the snake has got a lot of people. Addiction it's a bigger issue, shows up everywhere. What happened with Chris, what happened with John, I've witnessed it everywhere in my life, and I watch it. I watch families just get devastated by an overdose or drunk driver getting killed himself. It's devastation. Alcohol and drugs they decimate the family. It's terrible. It's terrible. And I always thought Judy and I used to joke about it being, well, this is the decade of readjustment. It's going to take us a decade to readjust from John's death. And it takes forever.
Yeah.
It's, you know, you lose a brother, you lose a son, you know, you lose a daughter. It's just, it's one of those devastating things in life. And you do learn from it. You do grow from it. You do get insights and wisdom. And the truth for me is that after John died, you know, it's like if somebody died in your family, David, I wouldn't know unless you told me.
Right.
But with John, the whole world knew. So no matter where I would step in life, people would bring it up.
Yeah.
In a very loving way, you know. Sorry, really loved him. But another interesting thing happened is over these decades, people who've lost their brother, sister, or parent to especially a drug overdose, they would search me out. And they would come to me and they would talk, and I'd look at them and they would check me out, see if I was for real. And then they would break it and tell me that they lost a brother. And they would look to me for advice. And I thought one time, I go, okay, That's one of the reasons I'm here, is to help other people with that suffering of loss. So I've been educated in so many different ways because of that loss. And Chris, I can't imagine what he's done for you guys, for his brothers, his mothers. You carry it with you, and you learn and try to put a positive spin on it to help others.
Mm-hmm. And you can't compare. I mean, we can't compare to a brother, and Chris was such a close friend. But even then, I can think about it every day, and I think that's kind of what you're going through right now. You can think about it, but if you really start to think about it and you hang on for it too long, then you're going to break down because it's just too heavy. I can skim it. I can talk to people about it on the street, but when it goes to a next level, you go, fuck it. It's too hard. I can't talk about it.
We're skimmers, my friend. We're comedians and we skimmer along.
Fuck yeah. I mean, people go, hey, or people to this day go, hey, and then they meet me and then they go, by the way, sorry. And I go, sorry about what? And they're like,
yeah,
Chris. And I go, oh, yeah. And then just a bummer. And then they go, okay, later. And I go, well, thanks. Then I walk away thinking, oh my God, don't make me think about that.
Yeah, I get it. And so instead of trying to get away from it, I just engaged it and said, okay, this is where I'm thinking. This is what I'm feeling. What am I supposed to learn now? Again, I keep trying to bring some kind of value in my life, some insight and some wisdom to help others. But then when it comes into addiction, people are addicted. You can't really help them. There's nothing you can do except for be the reality principle with them and say, hey, you're addicted, you're an addict, you're destroying yourself, you're destroying your family. And man, I hope you stop it. And then you got to walk away.
Yeah, the addict has to want to stop. And that's the linchpin. You can't.
The dumbest question is, why didn't you stop them? It's just so naive for people to say that.
Yeah, you get mad at the addict, and that's what starts the codependency. So you can't get mad. You got to give them compassion.
Yeah, see them as sick, that need help.
Yeah, I heard one thing at the Betty Ford clinic. They said, if you had a relative that had cancer and you were sitting in the bed next to them in the hospital, and they started swearing at you and yelling and thrashing, you wouldn't be mad at them, would you? You would understand that this disease is eating them alive. And you can only sit there with an open heart and compassion. And the problem with alcoholism and drug addiction, you don't think of it as a disease or an illness. You just get mad at them, which only enables them to continue on their path.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Or it gives them an excuse not to see you or hang out with you or talk to you.
Yeah.
Well, and their brain has been hijacked, and so they tend to lie, cheat, and steal. But that's not who they really are. It becomes primal, the desire, like water and air. And so
it turns into number one, and then everything else, who cares? Yeah,
completely all encompassing. Yeah, that's such an interesting lane you've been in, John. Sorry, Jim. It's just this has been a very unique part of our honoring Chris and remembering Chris.
Well, I remember him as very, very funny, man. He was one of the funniest guys in the world, man. He used to make me pee in my pants.
That's what I was that's exactly what I wanted to ask you to close this out, is seeing him move around like that, and his comic moves and his rhythms and his commitment, all of it was
I've literally let go of urine, peed in my pants with two people in my life. John Candy and Chris Farley.
I love John Candy.
Candy's like, oh Jesus, I gotta change my pants. Funny, man.
Yeah. No, Chris.
Yeah. Well, Jim, thanks, man. Thanks for digging deep and just even talking about this stuff. It's hard. It's hard for all of us. It's harder for you. And
ain't that hard.
Appreciate it.
It's been it's been 40 years since John died. It ain't that hard. I don't mind talking about it. I learned a lot. It's good to pass on and talk about it. It's not so hard.
Chris is 25. That's crazy.
25 years. It's like, I've had 2 children grow up and go to college since they've passed,
Mm-hmm. All right. See you, Jim. Take care, bud. We really appreciate it.
So nice to see you, and all my love to the spirit of Chris, and maybe floating up there having a good time right now.
Conan, who's such a great friend of both of ours, is another different flavor here because we're sort of all over the map with highs and lows and thoughts and remembrances. I might move into one of Adam's 9 houses that he bought the block.
Because I go by that house back. I used to run a lot, and I would run by his house, and he keeps swallowing more and more property.
I love it.
And so I'm just thinking, if I was an 85-year-old person who lived contiguous to his property line, I'd be so terrified that my time is up.
Loughran shows up and says, "Hey, it's time."
Yeah.
Because he goes, I had my daughter over there once, and he goes, "All right, why don't you guys all go over to the other kitchen and at the other house?" And they all went over there and made cookies and stuff. There's a full house in Palisades.
Yeah.
This is what we do at dinner. Okay, we'll start. We'll say, okay. Conan is was pretty tight with Chris. We did the show with Chris for many years. Showed Chris around, we hear?
Yeah.
When he got
the tour guide for Chris Farley the first day.
I have a very clear, one of my clearest memories was I was working at SNL as a writer, and that Lorne has that office. He has his office on the 9th floor.
Yes.
And, everyone knows that the writers, well, not everyone knows, but people should know that the writers and Lorne, the early part of the week all happens on the 17th floor. Mm-hmm. And then after read through, everything moves down to Studio 8H, where they're getting the sketches on their feet and they're constructing the sets. And Lorne has an office that's on the 9th floor. It's small, but you can walk from that office. It has a glass door right out into the audience. So it's right there. And that's his command center for the second part of the week. And what he does is he would have meetings with people, but Lorne famously would keep people waiting. Obviously not a Paul McCartney or someone like that, but he would keep people waiting. So I'll never forget, I came down to 9 and I walked in, and there's this guy sitting there, and Chris Farley's such a presence that you can tell this is a special person. He in all the best ways. He's sitting there, and I started having fun with him.
Thrown together.
We were just riffing with each other, and he had such puppy dog energy. He had incredible puppy dog energy, and he was new. He had been at SNL. He had been at Second City, and he had worked with Odenkirk. So Bob came in. I think Bob gave me a heads up. My friend Chris is coming, but I didn't really know Chris. So we start just goofing around like kids, and we are kids. And so then I said, "I'll give you a tour. You want to tour the place?" And he went, sure, boss, sure. He goes right into character. So I said, "Come with me, kid." And I lead him through the studio, and it's a totally bullshit tour. I'm doing the stuff that you guys would, see that guy over there? That's cameraman. You're going to like cameraman. And someone would be lifting a boom, and I'd say, "Up with that boom, guys. Let's go." And he was cracking up, and then he was doing it too. And he was playing the part. He's such a good, natural, fun improviser of the kid from the Midwest who just got off the bus and has a cardboard suitcase. "Oh, wow. Golly gee, really, mister?" And he was doing all that, and I was being a big over-the-top city slicker blowhard. And I had so much fun with him. And then he was an absolute delight, just such a delightful presence on the show. We all remember that. I think that Chippendale sketch is where things really blew up for him that Jim Downey did. I believe it was Jim Downey. And I remembered
early on.
Yeah. I remembered standing. I'm probably 15 feet away from Patrick Swayze and Chris Farley when he rips his shirt off and does that. And I mean, it was just an atomic bomb blast in 88. Such screams of laughter.
Working for the Weekend comes on.
Yeah, everybody's working. And and of course, Farley doesn't just commit, he goes to 190. And so that was really nice. I left SNL at some point. I left SNL and I went to work on The Simpsons out in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
And I would see Chris on occasion here and there, but I didn't see him as regularly. But then when I started the late night show, Chris was great. Chris came down. He was on the show. He was fantastic. He was a juggernaut. And then one of my things that we did is I was always been obsessed with that thing on the Three Stooges where, Mo, Larry, and Curly see these women that they find really attractive, and you cut to, and it's Mo, Larry, and Curly dressed as women. And I always loved, it's such a stupid idea that men would be attracted to the female version of themselves, which is usually pretty hideous, but it's just one of those comedic premises that you have to go along with. Mm-hmm. So we did a bit involving pre-tapes where Chris and I are talking in the at the set, talking at the desk, chatting, and then Chris kind of notices, hey, look at those interns over there. And I go, huh? And I go, hello. And then it's me and Chris dressed as pages. I guess we're pages. Mm-hmm. And we're dressed as women. We're absolutely hideous. But we're doing all that kind of shtick like, yoo-hoo, and, oh, I think this one likes me. Yeah, and I think that one likes me. It was just so much fun to do that old, I think it must be a vaudeville bit.
Oh,
but
yeah.
to do that with Chris was a real joy.
He could turn himself into a 10-year-old boy in a second, with the index finger and the chin goes down and then kind of swaying back and forth. But
he could. Yeah.
If you come at him with any bit, you just start anything and he's immediately doing it. He doesn't ask any questions. It's just bits ahoy. He's into it.
Yeah. All the time. And
loves it.
Yeah. And kind of just the way a fish is meant to live in the water. And when you see a fish swimming through the water, there's no question as to why it's in the water. It's genetically engineered to be there. That was, I think, Chris in the world of comedy. He just was supposed to be there. And that was his natural habitat was, just constantly, what does the bit require? The bit requires for me to be the skipper on Gilligan's Island. Then I'm the skipper on Gilligan's Island. It requires for me to be a big over the top.
A little buddy.
Yeah, exactly.
He would just walk in. I'm going to go get some coconut.
Yeah. And then, he was constantly morphing, jumping around, whatever. But if the bit required kind of the way I think musicians, if one person's playing, open chords low down the neck on guitar, the other person should go up the neck to complement and harmonize. I think that was what he had naturally was, if you're playing the alpha role, he'll immediately, take the weak position. If you are riffing around and you're acting like a nerd or a weakling, he'll immediately go to pull yourself together, and just kind of magically, it was just, I don't know, it's just so much fun. I would like people to know that however much joy he brought to people on SNL in those sketches that you can watch and in his movies and his work, whatever he's doing there that's making you happy, you have to understand that stuff was happening all the time in life that was hilarious and there were no cameras.
I like when we walk in your office and you go, well, crappy and cruddy, right on time.
Yeah,
or he'd peek his head around your office or my office. He'd go, David. It's always a bit. He can't sit still. Like, Chris, I'm trying to write. David, I have a secret. It's like, what's this one? What are we doing? What's going on? Yeah, I love it though, because everybody at the show, which is a gift that I kind of realized at the time, but I realized more later, everyone, especially when I was there, was so good and or better than me that when you run into Conan, you're suddenly going to be better because you're with a guy that's so smart and funny, and then you turn and there's Dana, and then there's Dennis Miller, and there's Chris Rock in the hallway. So whoever you're joking with or thinking of bits with, it's so beyond the level I was used to that it really was a gift.
Well, I think
to be with the funniest.
Yeah,
people.
I think that was true for all of us, though. I mean, all of us, and that is one of the real joys of being lucky enough to get into this business is you find yourself you're hanging around with, I'm hanging around with a Chris Farley and David Spade and Dana Carvey and Kevin Nealon and, and then incredibly funny writers, Smigel and Odenkirk and, Greg Daniels, all these people. And you're just, and so what happens is you get spoiled, and then people are so funny
true.
and so
That's
quick.
great.
And then you go to a barbecue somewhere and people are working in finance and you're just not having as much. You realize, I'm spoiled. That's not the real world. This is the real world. Occasionally you bump into a funny person, as opposed to things are jam-packed with incredibly funny people and funny in different ways.
Yeah. That was part of the fun. Like Jack Handy, I could never write anything like Jack Handy wrote.
Oh, no one could.
And
No.
it's just everyone's got such an interesting angle. I go to that read-through table and just go, what am I doing here? It took a year just to go, this is how you write a sketch. Forget about it getting on. Let me just figure out how this is working here. It's so complicated. But
well, no, it is, it's that old rule, like, play tennis with people who are better than you. I don't play tennis.
I knew when I raised my kids up in Northern California, there was a banker, very nice guy. Whenever we walked down the street, I would do one of my things that I do. I just look at him and go, interesting, huh?
Yeah.
And he for 5 years, he go, well, what do you mean? Nothing, And then finally, like 5 years later, he walked down, looked at me and said, interesting. Huh. It's just this passive aggressive character that I do of starting to get it and all that stuff.
I think, Conan, you'd agree that Chris, comes off as kind of a doofus dummy in his characters, but he had such a way of understanding every bit so fast what you were doing that he got them all. Like, it wasn't like, what are you doing? What do you mean? Like, you would maybe think he was on top, and he would laugh. You can tell just people, not what they say, but what they laugh at. If they laugh at the driest, weirdest jokes, he would laugh at everything. And you go, shit, that he catches so many things, and that would maybe surprise people.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, there's a real sweetness there. And, he was, it's true. And I think it's a really good point that, he was famous for being, what he would probably call fatty, who falls fall down. But he was very intelligent and highly just adept, very quick, and he saw things, he understood things, and I think that was you want to make sure that people know about that too. That he, whatever struggle he had with. I'm just fatty fall down. That wasn't true. Most of us, and most people I talk to in comedy, and not just comedy, but specifically comedy, and I'm talking about people who are very successful, have they have a problem. You've heard of body dysmorphia, where there are people who are way too skinny and they're ill. And if you ask them, what do they look like? They'd say, well, I'm really fat. And it's an actual medical condition. I think there are people that have career dysmorphia. They don't understand how much they bring to the table, and they tend to run themselves down, and they tend to say, oh, I'm no good. I can't, I'm not nearly as good as these other people. And you're looking at them thinking, you're fantastic. You're amazing.
Yeah. After like 3 weeks or 4 weeks, every host that came in would zoom right to Farley.
Yeah.
I remember when Michael Jordan hosted the show, and there was a basketball hoop set up in 8H, and it was just him and Farley just playing 2-on-2 or playing horse, and you could tell that Michael Jordan was incredibly fascinated by Chris Farley, the energy and funniness of him, and the way he was making.
And he was good at basketball.
And he was a natural athlete, and his charm. It
Right.
was like, I just watched that and said, let Chris and Michael Jordan go at it,
That'd be a good pay-per-view event.
I heard just Michael Jordan adjacent story, but I remembered when he was there that week doing a thing about the Globetrotters. It was a film, and I think Robert Smigel did this. Robert said it was fascinating because Michael Jordan was watching. Basically, they just got, I think the premise, if I have it right, I may not, but I think the premise was that at the beginning, the Harlem Globetrotters were all white. And then they integrated the first. Yeah, and it's such a great Robert idea.
They don't want Michael Jordan, right?
And they don't want Michael Jordan because it's like it's crossing the color line for the Harlem Globetrotters, which it's okay. It's a perfect comedy idea, courtesy of Robert Smigel. But then Robert, I think, mentioned to me that, Michael Jordan was in between takes. He's there, and the writers, they got writers and interns to fill out the numbers, so there's some cast members there, but there's also just, hey, you kid, because the point was they wanted them to look kind of pathetic.
Steve Korn.
Yeah, whatever. So they grabbed a bunch of people, and that Jordan was watching 21-year-old writers and interns take terrible shots and clang against the rim or miss or complete air balls. And Jordan was standing there, and Robert was right next to him, and Jordan was being critical of them because he's so competitive.
Sure, he's had it. He's like, I don't want it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So like a 22-year-old who's never touched a basketball in his life, but is just there to fill out the back of the frame, takes a shot and gets an air ball. And Jordan was like, God damn.
This guy sucks.
What's wrong with him? I just love that. It's the thing I keep learning again and again and again in this world, which is that there's a reason people are where they are. So some people can think, well, Bruce Springsteen's, he's just Bruce Springsteen, so that's why he's Bruce Springsteen. And you realize, well, what is it that got him there? And then every now and then, when I've had the pleasure of talking to him or interviewing him or spending any time with him at all in any capacity, he's like, yeah, I think if I tried a little harder, I could do this new thing with my voice, and I'm going to really try and do that. And like, what are you talking about? To the rest of us, you're on the top of the highest mountain in the world, but he's thinking, yeah,
there's more there. I can do a little better. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I think I could just do this thing a little better. And I think, Michael Jordan is, people say if you play like dominoes with him or cards or anything, he will try to kill you. And if he loses, he's really pissed. So, still
drive.
That's not gonna. Yeah, and whatever, and it's the thing that got you there doesn't go away. So whatever you had when you were 14 that turned you into that person doesn't suddenly leave once you've achieved success.
I think it's like the doctor, your leg is over the table and he does a little hammer, and it's like a reflex. So if I do a corporate date, I'm not thinking about the money. I want them to say, no one's ever been as funny as you. Yeah. Even though it's insane, they don't even care. But it's just a reflex, It's like not even just...
No, it is funny how people think when you're out in front of people, you're never, I think all of us, you're not thinking in that moment, this is what I'm getting to do this in terms of, any financial reward. This is what my pay is going to be. When you're in front of people, you just want it to go really, really well. And anything less than that is going to bother you for a couple of days at least.
I know, it's so crazy.
That's what you're thinking about. And, the fact that someone goes, yeah, it was pretty good. Wasn't great. Dana was here a couple of weeks ago and he really killed it. And you were not, but you did fine. Anyway, here's, we owe you some money. You just want to die.
You want to give the money back and just go, fuck
I
it.
know.
Just take it.
I don't deserve it.
Deserve
it's fun to care, just like never let.
No, it's not. It's not fun
Well,
to care.
well,
it's the opposite of fun
compared to but you get the moments where it worked out, and rather than like, well, what does it matter? I have a bathtub that's made of diamonds.
Exactly. No, I completely agree with you.
Two sides of the coin, the yin and the yang. The
yin and the yang. You probably use that one a lot on the podcast, don't you, Dana?
Yes.
I'm so glad that this format exists, this podcast format, and one of the reasons why I do find it therapeutic. I do find today, when I knew that I was coming in to talk to you guys, this is, technically where we're doing some kind of a job here and making something. It doesn't feel that way at all. We're here to talk about Chris, and we're here to remember him and enjoy him and keep his spirit alive, which doesn't need us to keep his spirit alive. But I don't know. It's very, when these things are over, I feel like, I don't need to see my therapist now for a couple of weeks,
Where were you when I know we're supposed to stop right now, but where were you when you heard that he died?
I was, I remember this exactly. I'm getting ready to do our show, a late night show, which is on the 6th floor. And down the hall from us was our wardrobe room. And Deb Shaw was in the wardrobe room. And I went in there, and Andy had to go in too, because we had to get fitted for some kind of sketch. And it was in the afternoon before a show, but close to when the show was going to be on. And someone just walked in and said, Chris Farley died. Whoa. And we were all stunned. And I remember this. I said, someone's asked, like, well, oh my God, how old was he? And I just said, probably 33, because I knew that he had talked about how much he admired Belushi and wanted to emulate Belushi. And so I said, probably 33. And then we turned on the TV and they said, has died at the age of 33. So I remembered saying that before, just because I knew that was such an obsession. Mm-hmm. I had been, like all of us, really, I had lost regular touch with him. And then I saw him, there was something called the Aspen Comedy Festival. Doesn't exist anymore, but it was a big deal. Oh, yeah. And they sent a lot of us out there to be part of it. Mm-hmm. And you guys were there, and I was there to interview different people on stage and do panels. But there's an opera house there. It's a huge venue, and they got, so many great SNL people there up on stage. It was a big night.
Yeah, I got that photo.
And I remembered Chris was funny, but a little kind of like roller coaster, almost coming off the tracks in a perilous way. And then afterwards, there's a skating rink outside, near the opera house. And the comedy festival had organized some kind of party, and Chris was there, and he did not seem well. And he seemed, to me, it's one of the saddest things is meeting him for the first time and spending all that time with him. And he had that puppy dog, good cheer.
Light in his eyes, yeah.
Light in his eyes. And then when I saw him towards the end, the kind of, I don't know what else to say, like anger. I think he was angry, and angry, if anyone, I think, suggested that maybe he needed to look after himself. And there was a lot of heaviness. I don't mean physical heaviness, but just a psychic heaviness. And that's such a painful thing to see up close, and to see someone like Chris go through that. It's the oldest story in Hollywood. But to see that arc I think was tough. And I'm sure you guys had more experience with that. And you specifically, David, than I did, but I hadn't seen him in a while, and I saw him at that Aspen Comedy Festival at the skating rink and was trying to, sort of talk to him and say hi. And he just seemed, impatient, angry.
Yeah.
Aspen was a tough trip across the board.
I had the same experience. Same experience that you had, Conan. Yeah.
Yeah. Aspen was just a tough trip because he got there and he just got into everything. And it was almost like downhill from there. Like when I saw him the next day, he hadn't gone to bed at all. So his eyes are sort of rolling back while he's talking to me. And I'm like, you should get some sleep. And then, who there? Is that Dave Spade over there? But he's doing it for a crowd of idiots, of like people that stayed up all night with him. He always would find people that would be willing to party with him, of course. And it's somebody I don't, none of us would probably gravitate to. And they're all there for the wrong reason. And then he's doing stuff and goofing around, but then he slows down. You see him just staring into space. You go, oh shit. You just hope he'll turn it around. I think we all did. But then when you hear the news, you're not shocked. It's just so sad, but it wasn't out of the blue, really. Well, Conan, thank you for talking to us.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you guys are doing this, not just, for all things SNL, but specifically for Chris, because I think it is good to remind people that as legendary as he was and is, there's a person there. There's a person there who brought a lot of joy to a lot of people, but also had clearly a lot of pain. And so I just, I was raised Catholic. I'm hoping he's in a better place,
Yeah. Well said.
This is the heaviest ending to any podcast I've ever done.
I don't know. I'm kind of.
Who are we talking about next?
All right. Well, thank you for listening. And I think we're just going to end it with Adam's Chris Farley song. So here it is.
All right, guys, gonna do this one. This is a very special song. I hope you like it. It means a lot to us. Here we go. First time I saw him, he was sweeter than shit. Plaid jacket and belt too tight, he wasn't even doing a bit. Then he cartwheeled around the room and slow danced with a cleaning lady. He was a one-man party. You know what I'm talking about my friend Chris Farley. On Saturday night, my man would always deliver. Whether he was the bumblebee girl or living in a van down by the river. He loved the Bears and Nick could dance at Chippendales with Swayze. When they replaced his coffee with Folgers, he went fucking crazy. The sexiest Gap girl and Meatloaf in the band. Without him there'd be no lunch lady in lunch lady land. You know I'm thinking about my boy Chris Farley. After a show, we drink a quart of Jack Daniels and stick the bottle right up his ass. But hungover as hell, that Catholic boy always showed up to morning mass. We tell him, slow down, you'll end up like Belushi and Getty. He said, those guys are my heroes, that's all fine and dandy. I ain't making that shit up, that's the truth about my boy Chris Farley. I saw him in the office crying with his headphones on, listening to a Casey and the Sunshine Band song. I said, buddy, how the hell's that making you so sad? Then he laughed and said, just thinking about my dad. The last big hang we had was at Timmy Meadows' wedding party. We laughed our balls off all night long, all because of Farley. But a few months later the party came to an end. We flew out to Madison to bury our friend. Nothing was harder than saying goodbye, since watching Chris's father have his turn to cry. Hey, but if life's moved on, but you still bring us so much joy. Make my kids laugh with your YouTube clips, or Tommy Boy. And when they ask me who's the funniest guy I ever knew, I tell them hands down, without a doubt, it's you. Yeah, I miss hanging out, watching you try to get laid. But most of all, I miss watching you fuck with Spade. You're a legend like you wanted, but I still wish you were here with me. And we were getting on a plane to go shoot Grown-Ups 3. Your love ain't the same without you, boy. And that's why I'm singing about my friend Chris Farley. And if we make enough noise, maybe he'll hear us. Give it up for the great